Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Sorry, I think I'm out of witty banner for today. Sure, I'll have some later. Today we're going to clear the air. It's been a long time coming for this topic. I have done this, gosh, 8 years, almost 9 years now. This graph is 9 years old. Today we're going to define sexual market value in the sexual marketplace. Have things changed? Have they not changed? Is it one big grand cope for old guys like me? Get off my lawn! Hey. Hey. That's enough of that. No, sorry. No Ned today. Once my wife stops doing these graveyard shifts, then I'll bring Ned back in here. That's enough of that. Oh, wow. Today has been interesting, to say the least. Actually, last night, it's been a really hectic 4 days for me. I wasn't going to do a show today. I was out for Rule Zero on Saturday. I had planned to just sort of take it easy anyways, but the news of the week is that my mother finally passed away on Thursday evening at about 11:30 Pacific time. And I'll explain what happened and how everything, I tell you, when I was her primary caregiver, as most of you guys know. I've been doing really for the last 4 or 5 years, but since May of 2019, my mom went into assisted living, and she was pretty close to me when she went into the facility. It was in the same place I was living at the time. I ended up moving away from there, about an hour away, and making trips down there once every week and a half or so. And then COVID hit, and if you guys have followed my my Twitter feed for sure, but my Instagram, I post a few pictures out there. And since March of this year, I've had to just basically sit outside a window and talk to my mom. And that's basically the last conversation I had with my mom, was out through a screened window. So I'll explain later. I'm not really wanting to talk about it at this point, but my mom was 81, and she had a pretty good run of things. And I'll tell you, man, don't die. You can't afford to die. It's expensive. It's very expensive to die. Fortunately, I've got everything taken care of, but I have had to explain over and over. I think it's like the explaining to everybody. Well, what happened? Oh, Jesus Christ! Do I have to do this again? Aren't you upset? Yeah, I'm upset, but I've got too many things. I'm playing whack-a-mole here with it. It's like I feel like I'm planning a wedding and not a funeral. So, anyways, I'll talk about it later on Wednesday. But today I wanted to get into the sexual market value, sexual market value, sexual marketplace graph that I did a long time ago. I see it's coming up in some topics of discussion. It got brought up on Rule Zero, and I just could not resist. I had to just chime in for about 5 minutes or so to just sort of speak my piece rather than try to type in to the chat to explain what I was thinking when I created that graph. Which, if you Google sexual market value graph or whatever, even if you just put SMV or sexual market value, you'll probably pick it up, and you go and you look for an image search, you'll probably see it. That graph, thank you guys, everybody, for your sentiments. I appreciate that a lot. I'm trying to just sort of do things, try to stay as normal as I can. This is kind of put a damper on releasing the book, so I'm probably going to push things back about a week, maybe a week and a half or two to before I actually release the book. So just so you guys know, just keep that in mind. Which sucks because I'm ready to do it right now. I did the cover for Aaron Clary's new book, and at the same time I'm doing the cover of my new book, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to get this out. I can't wait to get, and everybody's got something, man. I mean, Ryan has a new book. Rich has got his book out. Aaron Clary has got his new book called The Book of Numbers coming out, which is, I'll let him explain it to you, but it's, if you know anything about Aaron Clary, he's all about, economics. He is Aaron, are you a CPA? I know you're an economist, so go check that. Go check his book out when it hits. I did the cover for that. So there you go. I think it came out pretty well. So anyways, I saw yesterday, yesterday was sort of this very strange, almost surreal day for me, because I was kind of like trying to not get involved in all this crap because I'm not in a good state to be I probably shouldn't even do this show today. So you'll have to forgive me if I get a little bit animated. But I did chime in on Rule Zero on Saturday to discuss I guess a video or something like this guy. I have no idea who this dude is. Coach Black Pill or something. I was like, everybody's got a coach, right? Everyone's a coach. If you are getting into like doing niche marketing in the men's sphere, don't call yourself a coach. There's enough. We got enough coaches. Thank you very much. Like find something else, like Professor X or some shit like that. That would be better. Like come up with something that's like a little more original than coach. There's too many coaches. Thank you. But I guess now Coach Red Pill wasn't enough. Now we got to be Coach Black Pill or Coach, Dork Pill or whatever it is. So Coach Black Pill decided that he wanted to sort of dissect my graph, and he's in good company. Well, whoever you are, Mr. Coach. Because a lot of people, like when I started looking at it, I'm like, if I'm going to do a show on this, I'm going to have to, thanks Tobias. I'm going to have to, oh really? Yeah, I remember Nico Chosky. Chosky was cool. Chosky was like a MGTOW, and then he decided to just kind of drop out of the whole thing. I think he got into a relationship or something like that. He decided that MGTOW was not for him. Thanks everybody. Thank you very much. Gosh. Thanks Atham, and I'll try to keep up with these as I go along. I live in Maine. I'm an ugly state. No. Maine is actually a very beautiful state if you think about it. Tim, what did you say? Roll, I believe those peak S&V charts are flawed with reality. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit today, Tim. That's why I wanted to sort of have a cogent, coherent discussion about all of this, because I think that you have to remember that I did those charts, I did that graph back in 2012. And since then, people either love it too much or they hate it too much. And usually they hate it too much. And right now I see this sort of new wave of, doom pillars latching on to it, because to get a name for yourself, you got to go hit the biggest kid in the schoolyard, right? If you want to get into the grift of the manosphere, if you want to get into the grift of MGTOW, and I realize that's not the real definition. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's grifters that are coming in and they're using MGTOW as their moniker, right? They're just slapping. Oh, that's a hot tag. Let's put that on there. I'm MGTOW. What is that? I don't know. Just watch my stuff. That's what I'm talking about. This new wave of doom pillars, black pillars, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I really don't care what you call them. This is nothing new. I've had to deal with these guys since I started doing this, really. But I can remember back in 2012, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, where I was dealing with the guys from True Force Loneliness, right? Which are basically the black pillars of today. They're the True Force Loneliness guys who came over to YouTube. Right. It's a more accessible, more platformed version of True Force Loneliness. That's where it really came from. People will say, well, MGTOW came out of the MRAs. Well, okay, fine. But you want to know where the incel pill and this pill and that pill, and let's attach pill to any pet nonsense that I can think of. That's where it pretty much started. I've dealt with these guys for a long time. So I will hit on that today, Tim. I promise you. I promise. I will get to everybody. I'll make you all feel special by the end of this. Yeah, Maine is very beautiful. New Hampshire's pretty nice too. Yeah, the dog pill. Yes, Tim, the dog pill. Yeah. All right. So and let me just start by showing this off to you guys first, because I'm sure you guys are already aware of this. You probably have seen this many times. This is my infamous SMV graph that I did. Now, remember, this came from a post that I did in 2012. And by the way, I am drinking Devil Mountain coffee today. They are not my sponsors, but I like them well enough that I'm going to promote them, and they're going to send me free coffee. So this is it right here. This came from, and you can find the actual post. It's the first one in the relevant links down below in the description. You will find the link to a post that I wrote, which was really kind of, it's funny to me because it was just sort of this impromptu post that I did. I think it was like in May of 2012, or it was like towards like graduation time. And I had all of these guys asking me, I said, Rollo, I wish you could come give the commencement speech at my college or my high school or whatever. I'm like, well, I doubt I would get invited to do that. But so that's why I wrote a post. I'm like, okay, well, let's what do young men in, well, this is 2012. What do young men in 2012 need to know going forth into the world? And what would be the commencement speech of Rollo Tomassi for the men of the future, right? And this is what I came up with. And I just sort of, I did this from correlation. Okay. This was not because I came up with a whole bunch of great stats or anything. I was just thinking to myself, I was watching where things were going. Remember, by this time I've been writing the Manosphere for close to 10 years. So I always pick up my time in the sphere really started in 2002, maybe 2001. My earliest post on SoSuave was 2002. So that's where I kind of mark things. So by this time, I've been writing for 10 years, and forums and things like that. The blog had been around for about a year, maybe a year and a half at this point. And so I, of course, had my detractors, I had critics and everything. And back then I think it was a more interesting time because I had more female critics back then. Right now I have more male critics than I have female critics. And I think that is sort of telling in hindsight, because now I think that things have become so stressed in the sexual marketplace and so stressed in like modern society when it comes to like how men and women interrelate with one another. And I don't think that the stuff that I bring up or the stuff that I was writing about in book one that is still, I think, relevant. I mean, was it Rich was showing me today? Like I'm still number 19 in that in the category he's in. I don't know what category he was on, but that's like my first book from 2013. And a lot's happened since 2012, of course. But I think right now that the stress between men and women has gotten so extreme. Or like I remember when I mentioned that, or I wrote some posts about open hypergamy, and that was in 2014. And I got a lot of pushback from women because women just didn't want me to like reveal the game. They didn't want me to talk about it. And now I think we've gotten to the point where it's a generational thing. This next sort of Generation Z has come around and they don't care. You can't go on OnlyFans and not confirm hypergamy. You can't go on Twitter. You can't go on social media. You can't go anywhere without confirming women's base mating strategies. And so I don't get a lot of pushback on this so much from women anymore. They get upset that I'm revealing it, of course, because it's kind of unflattering to think that their sexual market value peak is like 23 years old. But I was just on a show, J is for Justice, about a week and a half ago. Sam invited me, got me on that. And what's funny to me is Jay and I think her co-host Dre, D-R-E, they agreed with me. I pretty much outlined this in the 30 minutes, 40 minutes that I was on that show. And they agreed with me. The only one who didn't agree with me was the women who have this investment in keeping this sort of under wraps. And when I talked about open hypergamy, and I still do today, I think too many guys take that and they use it as sort of a verb. And it's like, it's not a verb. It's just sort of this. It's an adjective more than anything. It's women aren't open hypergamizing or whatever you want to, like, however you want to change that up. It just is. And it's when I talk about open hypergamy, it's a condition. It's not a verb. It's a condition. And And I think really the last 2 generations of women have become really almost like matter-of-factly comfortable with revealing their mating strategy. Whereas in prior generations, certainly mine, certainly the boomers, I would say most likely like Generation Y or like the first part of the millennial generation, women wanted to keep hypergamy something that's a secret because if it was a secret, it allowed them to optimize it that much better. So when I come up with a graph like this saying, okay, this is, women, as you guys know, I've said this a million times. I don't think I've never done an episode on this show about sexual market value. I have talked about sexual market value. I've done when I was my very first talk for the 21 convention back in 2017. I did mention this. I used this graph as well, just to sort of give guys a sort of an idea. Also, you will find this graph in book 2. And book 2 is The Rational Male Preventive Medicine. And I think this is sort of like the unsung hero of the series. It's going to be very soon, like once I've got the 4th book out. Because this, if you want actionable information, if you want something that's you can really sink your teeth into, it's not like people keep criticizing the first book as if it's like theory and stuff. Well, the second book is really kind of like, this is the kind of stuff you'll see. And you'll also see the timeline, which I'm going to bring up here as well. But you can look at this and you can go and search this and you will find dozens and dozens of people either trying to do a takedown of this or trying to sweep it under the carpet or trying to say that it's no longer legitimate in this day and age. And I'm like, well, let's talk about this. When I wrote this, I think the first criticism I got was, well, this didn't used to be how everything was. This used to, like women back in the day, back in the 60s, I don't know, whenever the back in the day was, they used to like SMV peak would have been much earlier. Okay, I 100% agree, but it wouldn't have changed the fact that men hit their peak later than women do. And that's always been the case. It will always still be the case when we go into, unless we like genetically alter our own evolution and our whatever it is that makes us this way, unless we find some way to like go in and mechanically change this is always going to be the state between men and women. Women will always hit their peak much, much earlier than guys do because it takes longer for men to mature into what makes them attractive. So when I put this out there, everybody, this is too simplistic. I can't believe he's not sexual market value. What does he mean? Does he mean like, is it a sexual thing? Is it a marriage market value? Is it long-term value? Is it this value? Is it that? And everybody turns into an economist or a statistician, and everybody wants to turn into some kind of they just want to like pick it apart, right? Well, that's not true for me. Right? Or women love this too. Like, remember when women disagree with something that is unflattering about the female nature, it's always reduced to an anecdote. It's always reduced to personal experience. When I talked about solipsism with Sterling Cooper last Monday, that's what I was digging into. And if you haven't seen that, it was a really good show. And you want a short show? That was it. I think we went for about 90 minutes on that. And I talked about solipsism. And that's a big reason why women are solipsistic is because, first of all, it's a survival trait, but it also prompts them, I should say, to personalizing things. And so the personal becomes the cosmic universal experience. So whenever you read a woman's response, and you'll probably see them in my own comment thread, women will say, well, as a woman, whenever you see that, get ready for the personalization. As a woman, I have experienced this. And so therefore, my experience, it defines the whole. So look for those things. That's one of the reasons why women will personalize things. Now, here's why I say this. I just made a pretty bold statement here. Did you guys catch that? Here's the bold statement. The bold statement is that women will always mature faster than men. We already know that physically, right? If you go and you look at puberty and girls who they mature much faster than guys do. And, guys are, catching up, and some guys quicker than others. But by and large, in, a sexually dimorphic species, right, women are going to be sexually mature and reproductively mature quicker than men are going to be, or males are going to be. That's part one. Part two is, and I was asked this, I forget who asked me this, and I'm going to have to dig this up. I was actually thinking about writing a blog post about this, but somebody asked me about emotional maturity and the scales of emotional maturity. And so when we talk about reaching different scale, like somebody, I forget the name of the researcher who did this, but he ranks like emotional maturity, like I think it's in 6 stages. He says most women only get to like stage 4, whereas men can get to stage 6. Because we have men prioritize reason before, if we're uninstructed and unconditioned guy, naturally men will prioritize reason before emotion. We will get into what the nuts and bolts of things and the information and the content of things rather than the context of things. And so by and large, it's not to say that women can't become more emotionally mature than like say stage 4. It's just that most don't. So I think what happens is women get to a point where they mature faster than men, but they halt. And that's just, I'm talking about emotionally and physically and whatever. They get to a point where like guys will say, well, women are just like the oldest teenager in the house, right? They're like, it's like dealing with children. Well, mostly, by and large, on average. Yes. I understand why guys would say that. And there's a reason for that. And I get into that in book 4, so I'm not going to dig into it too much today. But what happens is women mature really hot, really fast, really quick, and they get to that point, and then if they're on that declination, right? They're on this downturn. I don't know if you can see that from the peak SMV from 23. Again, the joke I've always said is, it's the store's called Forever 21 and not Forever 41. And women would love for you to think that they are they're in their sexual peak or their sexual prime when they get to be about 35 years old. And there's a reason for those social conventions as well. Women want to perpetuate that agency for as long as they possibly can. So I'm going to talk a little bit about women's sexual peak, but by and large today, I'm going to talk about men's sexual peak because this is where a lot of the doom pill guys want to attack me and they want to attack this chart. Now, is this chart still valid? I think so. I think in the most general sense, this is still valid today, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But again, the bold statement is this, is that women mature faster than guys, and it takes longer for guys to become. Remember when we talk about this, we say women just are and men must become. Okay. When I talk about the burden of performance, and I'm going to talk about this today, when I talk about the curse of potential, that is men's potential. Women have an agency. That agency maxes out when they get to about 23 years old because that's what gives them the most power over men, over their lives. When I talk about power, I'm not talking about, crushing, power. I'm talking about power in the sense like real power is the amount of control you have over your own life. And when women understand this, if you've ever read any of my Twitter feeds, I throw this out there every once in a while where I say that the women understand on some level of consciousness that their only real agency in this life is their sexuality. With how they deal with that and what they do with that and how they compensate for that, that's on the individual woman. But when women go to a protest and they want to take their clothes off or they want to run around naked just so that they can make a point so people will pay attention to them, the reason they're taking their clothes off is because somewhere at that little root brainstem, hindbrain, lizard brain level, they understand that the best way to get men's attention is to take their clothes off. Because that's what gets guys' attention, right? So hold that. Let's put a pin in that for a moment because I'm going to come back to that dynamic once I start talking about the things that make women attractive and the things that make men attractive, the things that make women arousing and the things that make men arousing. Because there's differences there, and those differences are always lost on guys who are, whether it's, I don't care if you're MGTOW or if you're TradCon or whatever, or dread pill, doom pill, whatever you are. You need to 9 times out of 10 when guys are criticizing this, they don't have any education in what I meant. So I'm giving you the education right now. If you want to debate this, I'm happy to debate this. I'm happy to talk about this. Don't come to me and say, you're an old guy, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, well, if I don't, then you owe it to me to educate yourself on almost 9 years of study and going into all this stuff, at least since 2012 when I created the graph, right? Go back and read the actual, you can actually go and read all about how I came to all these conclusions on the Rational Male for free. You don't have to pay a dime for it. Go and check it out. And then say, well, maybe he's right. Maybe there's something here. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe things have changed. Okay, we can talk about it. But don't come up and don't get in my grill and go, well, it's all about looks. Okay, we can even have that discussion if you'd like. We're going to talk about looks today too, guys. So we'll get into that. But what I wanted to do, we're going to go back to the bold statement. What's the bold statement? The bold statement is this: is that women will always mature faster when it comes to their peak, like sexual market value potential, than guys do. How do I know that? Because good Father Aristotle said this: women should marry when they are about 18 years of age, and men at 70 and 30. 70 and 30, 7 and 30, 37 years old. What did Rollo say about sexual market value peak? Then they are in the prime of life, and the decline in the powers of both will coincide. Why on earth would a woman's at 18, her powers would be in decline? How could that be true? Way back when old Uncle Aristotle was alive and kicking and in ancient Greece. I hope I'm saying that right. Athenian Greek, whatever. Whenever good, you know what's funny is I get run up the flagpole by mostly by trad cons, but also by like these, sort of pothead philosophers, right? So he doesn't read Eckhart Tolle. He doesn't know who St. Thomas Aquinas is. Okay, well, here we are. Okay, here's some wisdom of the ancients. Okay, what's the wisdom of the ancients? It's Aristotle telling you that the best time to get married, or the best time to hook up, or the best time to start a long-term relationship is 18 for girls and 37 for guys. 37, man. And you know that the life expectancy of guys back then was not that long. So even then, I think that even Aristotle understood that women's intrinsic value, women's real agency and really real value. Like, what did he say? What, let me see if I get to. He said, they're in the prime of their life, and the decline in powers of both will coincide, which is interesting because they're both at the peak, right? And they're both kind of like coming down. Now, how cool would it be if you could take those two sexual market value peaks right there, see where the girl's at 23 and guys I put him at 38. Maybe I shouldn't have put it at 38. Aristotle says 37. So we take those two, we mesh those two together, right? Now, what happens is those two declines, those two declinations happen together instead of apart, which is what we do now. So and I will explain to you exactly statistically that this is true. I'll prove this to you empirically here in just a moment. But this is what we look at today, and really we've been looking at this kind of since the sexual revolution, certainly. But I'm gonna show you some statistics that will still prove to you that even in 1965, when men and women were hooking up and they were getting together, there was still that want for the older guy from the younger woman. And it's not to say that, 23-year-old is going to want a guy who's 38. No, that's not what I'm saying. When I point out sexual market value peak, it's not who wants who. It's who has the most of what the other wants at that particular time in their lives. That's the most important operative point of today's lesson, children. Take notes. Sharpen your pencils. I hope your pencils are sharp. I hope you guys are taking notes because this class is in session today. We're going to look at a lot of graphs today. We're going to look at a lot of empirical data today because I've done the homework of all the things I have done homework on. This is the topic I've done the most homework on. So when we talk about the difference in sexual market value, what is it that makes men want women and what is it that makes women want men? Now, the reason why this offends the black pill, incel, looks maxers mentality is because they make the same mistake that the feminists made back when I did this in 2012. They're using exactly the same, in some cases, even verbatim, the same arguments that women were making back then. No woman at 23 is going to want a guy who's 38. I didn't say that. I said that the guy who is 36. Let's just go with Aristotle. Let's go with the wisdom of the ancients here. So at 36, yes, you are correct, Wanda. I'm going to put that up right now. Yes, you are 100% correct. Aristotle was the first red pill coach. I don't think he did. He wasn't selling anything on Gum Road, but he was the first red pill coach. John Fitch. Oh, wait, I got to put this up. And it's time. Can you see that? Devil Mountain Coffee. By the way, Devil Mountain Coffee, if you have any kind of sensitivity to caffeine, only have a 1 8-ounce cup. This has like really high caffeine content. Okay, so what are you saying now? Do you know if there is a good ROI in getting an education in the field of evolutionary psychology? Zom, it's like anything else. You can tell you what, you can get a good ROI out of a fine arts degree if you know how to apply that. It just depends. Depends on who you are, and what you think you can do with it. Yeah, you could. Depends on what you want to do with it. Exactly. Okay, so getting back to the point here. One of the things that I see when it comes to understanding sexual market value is everybody wants to make it subjective to themselves. They want to say, well, or let's start from the reverse. A lot of guys think that this is a cope. They think that this is like they don't understand how old this graph really is because they don't do the homework. They just see it and they go, oh, he's an old guy. That's why I get the critiques right now. Rollo doesn't know anything. He's 50 years old. Well, I probably, in all likelihood, I published this graph when you were probably in middle school. So let's have a little bit of context here. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the guys who are like the internal critics right now, they were trying to figure things out while they were, playing PS4 back when they were 12 or 13 for the most part. So let's put things into context here. Second of all, this has been around for a long time, and it's not like something I just pulled out of my ass. And a lot of guys will say, well, it doesn't really work that way. Where's your data? Like that was the first thing is, where's your hard data? Well, when I put it out, I even wrote in the thing, I said, this is me, right? This is me spitballing right here. This is what you can look forward to. Well, the funny thing is this graph was very, very accurate according to other data. So I'm going to show you a couple of other things here. I think this was probably this is actually the best one here. Let me see if I can throw this on here for you real quick. I probably should have queued these up. My apologies. It's right here. It's real interesting. All right. Age distribution of actresses and damn, that looks very familiar. Where have I seen this? But and I think I pulled this off of IMDb or something like I can't remember. Oh, it's Curious GNU.com. That's where this came from. Age distribution of actors and actresses. Okay. That looks an awful lot. I mean, maybe not completely, but you can certainly see the difference between this and this. Wow, Rollo, that's awfully curious, but that's correlation. That's not confirmation. That's not causation. Okay. All right. You got me on there. Look, it could be, in fact, pretty much all of this stuff is going to be correlations, but there's an awful lot of correlation. Let's also look at, where's another one? Let me go grab another one for you. Where is this one? Here we go. This is a really good one. Gosh, I should have gone with this one first. All right. What's funny is in the new order, we have a lot more data to sort of parse out right now. And I believe this is from Match.com. How a person's desirability changes with time. Once again, wow, that looks kind of similar to those two spikes right there. What is it that makes them desire? Now, this is desirability. Okay. We're talking about a portion of the data. Okay. So we've talked about this. Like, guys, I think what's funny is there's so many guys who will agree with me when it comes to hypergamy, particularly black women. They love that. Beat me up. Oh, it's hypergamy. I whip my back. They want to self-flagellate over hypergamy. Here we go.
We're never going to score. We're never going to score.
I'll just let Beavis or Butthead take it over for me for those. They want to beat themselves up over hypergamy. I'm never gonna score. I'm never gonna get good enough. But then when I throw something like this at them, then it's like, well, that's just you being old. It's a cope. That's you being old in a cope. You want girls who are younger to like you. Yeah. Okay. Where's the lie? Of course. Even Aristotle said 37, get with an 18-year-old. At least he had an adult. At least he was 18, even back then, right? If you go and you look at like stories like Romeo and Juliet, and you say, well, these are teenagers, right? And granted, this is Shakespeare. He's writing fiction, right? But he was writing fiction based on the social conventions of the time. So it'd be two teenagers. Like, what was it? Romeo was he supposed to be, I think he was at least 18, right? 17, 18. And Juliet was supposed to be like 14, maybe 15. That's quite the stretch. But remember, people didn't live as long. Now, comparatively speaking, I'm not saying they didn't live good long lives. Some of them got to a ripe old age too. But by and large, I mean, for the compared to what now, we live pretty long lives compared to what they did in the Renaissance or medieval times or back in the day. And so people had to start early. They had to get their accomplishments done much earlier. You look at things you look at the age of young men who went over to go land on the beaches of Normandy. Or you look at the average age of the men who fought in the Civil War. What was it? Robert Gould Shaw, one of my favorite stories in the world. A kid was 23 years old. Colonel Robert Gould Shaw. Okay. At 23 years old. How many colonels do you know that are 23 years old today? Most guys that are 23 years old are like, they're telling you about their favorite OnlyFans girl right there. But you had to do things a lot earlier back then. So yeah, I'm not saying that those peaks and valleys right there, I'm not saying that those are set in stone. I'm just saying, like, as far as the ages are concerned, I'm just saying those peaks and valleys exist contextually within the time, and also ethnicities, also the social conditions, also socioeconomics. But pretty much that's the same thing. If you go and you look at statistically, women look for guys who are anywhere between 3 and 7 years older than they are. How do I know that? Glad you asked. Let's have another look at some data. Here we go. Let's go and look at, let's just start with this one. This one's so much better. I love this one. This is out of the book Dataclysm. And I know this has been brought up. Dataclysm came out in I think 2014. Another book, and I'm going to buff him out because I love him to death. Black Label Logic. He's got 2 books called Gendernomics. If you want to get into the nuts and bolts and the statistics of this, he does yeoman's work on this stuff. So this, however, is out of Dataclysm. Now, these are averages of what women want from guys at various ages. These are the ones who look best. This is look, okay? Looks best to them versus the age of the man who looks best to her, all right? Okay. A woman's age versus the age of the men who look best to her. Got it? Good. So at 23, we can see here, or excuse me, at 20, we can see that, oh, look, a 3-year difference. Oh, 21, 3-year difference. Oh, look, 22, 2-year difference. 23, 2-year difference. 24, 1-year difference. And we can see, and it goes on and on and on, right? So when a girl gets to a ripe old age of 30, maybe she's looking for the guy who's 30 years old. Does that coincide with what Rollo said about the Epiphany phase? Yes, it does. Wow, look at all the rest of these. It seems to me that as women get older, they tend to look at the guy who looks best, okay? We're going to look and see here in a minute what the data says about who they end up pairing up with. So, who looks best? Okay? Well, funny you should say that. Funny that this should be stick so close. Now, of course, when women get up to, what is it, about 47, then they're looking at guys who are a little bit younger than they are because, we look better, whatever. They're still kind of looking back. So things get a little bit younger when they get up to about 50. So 4 years back, whatever, whoever looks the best. But still, to a 50-year-old woman, a 46-year-old guy looks best to her, according to Dataclysm. Now, all of this was like data harvested from Match.com, and I want to say eHarmony, and I want to say some other dating profile places. I'm not really sure where I know that they get it from Match.com, and I know they got it from OkCupid as well, was part of this as well. Now, granted, this was back in 2014. There's another great book, by the way. It's called A Billion Wicked Thoughts by Agvis and Agvai. That came out in the mid 2000s. I've always thought that was really a good. It was a good starter. We were just starting to parse data. We got at least another 15, 18 years of data since that book came out. So if they've updated it, somebody needs to tell me, because that was a really great book. I wrote a post about that when it first came out. So, all right. So that's that one. Well, let's look at this one here. So that's the ladies. The ladies want somebody, and that's who looks best to them. Okay. Who they end up with, who they're attracted to, who they get after it with, who they end up having children with and starting a relationship with. Usually it's anywhere between 3 to 7 years, somewhere in there. The mean average is about 5. So, and it depends on the age of the girl. Most women aren't getting married. They're not pairing up at 23 years old. Oh, we're going to look more data coming up. Here we go. Let's look at this. Now we're getting somewhere. A man's age versus the age of the women who look best to him. Well, things certainly change here, don't they? Wow, that line seems to make no difference to guys. Okay, so a guy who's 20, he wants to get with somebody who's 20. 21, he wants to get with somebody who's 20. 21, 22, 21. 23, 21. 24, 21. 25, 21. 26, 21. Let's keep going on. Oh, I'm 36. Oh, wait. We gotta go here. The 37-year-olds that Aristotle said men are hitting their peak at that point, or they're hitting their stride right then and there. These guys are a little bit off. Uncle Aristotle might be a little disappointed. In fact, Uncle Aristotle would say you're about 4 years off. You should be going for women who are 18, guys. Well, okay. Well, what is it? Sexual marketplace inflation. Okay, you've got that. Here we go. So 22, 20, 20, 21, 21, 20. Wow, we can go all the way to 50, and a 22-year-old still looks the best of that guy. What could possibly be going on here? Maybe it's because men and women are different. Maybe it's because they actually have things that they find different things that they find attractive or arousing. That's one data set. Let's we can keep going. Why don't we go and look at this? This is a GIF, so I'm going to have to sort of like walk my way through it a little bit here, just so you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, this one, I forget where I pulled this one from, actually. I just saw this not too long ago. I forget where I pulled this from. I got it from, I think it was Psychology Today. So, a by age distribution of people who would date an 18-year-old match. Okay? So, this looks very similar to what? To this. All right? Wow. Things are... Wow, that Rollo, he just doesn't do any homework. It's just all his opinions, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh, okay. 18. How about, let's do this. Why don't we go to 19? Oh, how about 20? No, how about 21? Wow. He's like amazingly close to a certain graph. Oh, look, 25. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Wow, that almost coincides. Well, actually, let's go back a little bit. There we go. Wow, damn, that looks very close to the age of actors and such as well. Wow, that's amazing. But correlation is not causation. Okay. I'm good with that. I understand. I'll put these out if you guys want me to send these. Should I put these on? Maybe I'll put them on the blog, or I'll put them on Twitter so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay. So there's that. Shall I continue? I think I shall. What else? What else do we have here? I have so much data over the years. This is where did I pull this one from? Oh, this is a localized. You guys want to see one from localized markets, right? So global sexual market. A lot of this, I remember these are pulled from Western culture, but pretty much the peaks and valleys stay the same. So let's, I I can't remember where I pulled this. I actually have this in an essay, but I put this on here just to show you this is distributions. Okay. Now this is across this is locales. Okay. Different locations. So we can look at age versus location here. And those stay pretty constant. Now I'm not going to say that this is exactly like the graph that I came up with, but they stay pretty constant. I mean, we look at maybe New York's a little bit different, but they stay pretty constant. So when a woman's 20, she's at her peak values, right? That's the peak desirability at those ages, or at that particular age. For men, wow, it seems that men increase in desirability as they get a little bit older. Wow, curiouser and curiouser. What could that possibly mean? That's a correlation right there. Not a causation. It's a correlation. Oh, let's see. What else do I have for you? Oh, my goodness. Well, we got to go here, too. This is a really good one. Lots and lots of graphs today, guys. Lots and lots of graphs. Shall I continue after this one? That's the real one. Age gap to spouse. This is, I believe I pulled this off of what it was. I can't read that right there. Sorry. I believe it's a family resource of some sort. Actually, I'm going to look at it might be the IFS, which is International Family Studies, I think is what it's called. Spouse is older. So these are the age differences. If the spouse is younger, the spouse is older. And these are the age gaps. So as I was saying, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years, and you can see how it goes up and up and up as the relative risk of dying increases. Okay. So that's something that you're gonna have to keep in mind too, because this also explains why men want to remarry more often than women do. Because women understand, I think on some level of consciousness, women realize that once they get past the wall, like the stereotypical wall, that the odds of finding another guy and getting remarried is pretty slim. And usually, especially now in Western cultures, they don't have to, right? They have death benefits, assuming they are widows. If they're divorced, they're probably getting alimony. They're probably getting divorce benefits of some sorts, like child support or whatever. They are well compensated, let's say, in Western societies right now. So women have a much lower incidence of remarriage than men do. Now, men, for whatever, because as I've said before, most men are beta males, and most men don't learn their lessons. They'll remarry once, twice, 3 times. I mean, you look at Jeff Bezos. Do you think Jeff Bezos will marry Dirty Sanchez? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But once again, old Uncle Aristotle says 37 and 18. Now, far be it from me to go against the wisdom of the ancients, but let's look at one more graph here. This is a good one too. I'm going to tell you guys. You guys will say, "Well, Rollo, he's all about marriage. He talks about marriage too much, or he's advocating. He's marching men to the slaughterhouse." Well, allow me to opine. Check this one out. This is a really good one. When not to get married. Age of first marriage and divorce risk as of 2006 to 2010. I have some other data that's a little bit more fresh than this. But again, the graphs don't change all that much. So they're saying, well, 25 is the best time to get married, right? Because the earlier you get married, the higher the incidence of divorce is. The higher the chance of you getting divorced. The higher the chance of it not working out for you. Now, I think, I speculate that there are myriad reasons why this happens. But most of all, it's a dynamic on the part of women that I've called making up for missing out. So remember that when I showed you, I don't know if you guys remember this. This is the graph from, actually, let me pull this down real quick. There we go. This is the graph from my book, the second book that I have called Preventive Medicine. And today, I think that's the book we need to focus on more than anything. In fact, if you want to buy the book, if you want to go check it out on Kindle, or if you want to get it on just a print version of it, if you don't have it, you'll find this timeline. You'll find this timeline in that book. And this is what most of that book is based on. Now, if we go and you look at the years from, like, say, 20 till about 27, maybe 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there. That's when the Epiphany phase starts. But if you look at the party years, this has been colloquially known as the hoe phase today, children. That's what we see women like. I think I was on Rule Zero. I think I even hosted it. There was we did a show called the hoe phase. Oh no, I did it. I did it on here. It's called the hoe phase. And these are the party years. The party years from 20 till about 28. And so when a woman gets to be about 28 years old, she turns into Tommy Lahren, right? That's when, and by order of degrees, maybe, all women are Tommy Lahren actually. But at some point along the way, that woman becomes a little more self-aware. She's forced into an acknowledgement that she's not going to be able to sexually compete in the way that she has been since she was 18. Thank you, Aristotle. And so, because Aristotle knows that that's when women go into the hoe phase. Thank you. Gosh, Aristotle. Yes, you're right. You are 100% correct. Aristotle was the first red pill coach. There you go. Now I want to go and look up. I want to go and look up more of Aristotle. So there you have it. Let's see. Did I get to all of these things that I wanted to get to before I have a whole ton of these things? You know what? I'm not going to bore you with any more. I do want to show you a couple other things here. This was actually okay. Yeah, I did get that from Family Studies. That last one with divorce at first marriage. Because I'm looking at that article right now. But there's one more thing I want to show you, and this is it right here. I got to go to a Chrome tab. This is age at first marriage. Now, again, I'm not advocating that you get married. I'm just saying, I just work here, man. Age at first marriage, median age at first marriage in the United States. This is where I got a lot of my data for book 4. And there is a very substantial chapter about marriage and the religious / red pill implications of marriage in the 21st century today. And this was one of the stats that I used. Okay. If you look at age of first marriage for men, the blue line right there, you will see 28.8, almost 30 years old. Like just fractionally away from 30 years old is the average age of first marriage for a guy. Okay. For women, it is 28 years old. Some stats I have is a little bit more than that, some less, but I think that's probably a pretty good one right there. Now let's look down here, children. We have, can you see that? Yeah, you can. Here we go. 1956 and to 59, 22 for men and 20 years old for women. Almost, okay, just maybe a little bit under 3. Now, does that mean, who knows how old, who knows what those guys are marrying? Maybe they're marrying 19-year-olds. Maybe they're marrying 20 years old. Women at 20, 22, about 20 years old. And this is 1956. The stats that I have I actually looked up stats for 1965 as well. Usually it's about the same or pretty close. There's anywhere between a 2 to 3 year difference in those marriages. And remember, yes, things were different back then. I get it. Average age of first marriage. This is in England and Wales. Look at that, man. 31. That's almost 32. And for women, it's 30. Does that seem like a healthy stat for you? I don't think so. Now, these are 1969, 1966. Things are a little bit different. But look at this jump. Well, what on earth could have happened in 1965? Curiouser and curiouser. What could have happened right around 1965? Rollo, you're a reactionary. You don't know what you're talking about. Hormonal birth control did not necessarily cause the sexual revolution. Well, and this coincides with a lot of other data sets too, by the way. I'm sorry to be facetious on all of this. But if you look at the jump in divorce rates, if you look at the decline, or I should say, this is the jump in age of first marriage. If you look at the actual marriage rates from, like, say, 1965 down to where we're at right now, because they are going down. I think, was it 2019 or 2020? It was at the rate of marriage in the United States is at its lowest since they started keeping track of things, like back in the 1890s, apparently. And so there you have it. I wanted to show that one off to you guys as well. But so when I make that very bold statement that says, well, men take longer to mature than women do. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of that as to why I came up with this great chart right here. Now, let's look at women really quickly, just briefly. Women, their primary agency, their primary thing that men are interested in when it comes to sexual market value is their looks, their appeal, their sexuality, and their availability. Younger, hotter, tighter. That's what they're looking for. As I said, if you go all the way up to 50, those guys are looking for 20 to 22 to 23. I might be a little off on that. It might even be 21 for the peak years. But I thought, I better give a little wiggle room in there, so I did that. Now, the important thing to remember in all this is if you look at what I've designated here as the peak span of 15 to 16 years, this right here at the bottom there where it says peak spans 15, 16 years, that is the most important part of this graph. Not, men can't be as good looking as they were when they were 26. Yeah, I get it. I understand that. I'm talking peak potential. I'm not talking, how come women only want those hot guys with the, Giga Chad chins and stuff like that? Well, yeah, they do, because they're interested in different things in different times when it comes to like arousal. But again, sexual market value peak has a lot more to do with what makes a man, what are the factors that make a man at his most attractive / arousing, and what age does that happen? Okay, what makes a woman sexually attractive and we can throw marriageable in there. I don't make a designation between marriage market value and sexual market value, and particularly not today because so many guys are so anti-marriage. So what I find fascinating is when I get these black pill guys who are like, well, that's not marriage market value. Who cares? Right? Who cares? Because you guys don't want to get married anyways. So let's adjust for that little factor. Funny how that seems to be a priority when you're criticizing me. But when it comes down to things like, I'm going to go and get this girl's opinion on whether I'm hot or I'm not. I'm going to go and get this aged out, woman's idea. Well, you tell me if I'm a 10 or an 8 or a 7 or would you get with this guy? Who cares? Who cares if you are? Because you don't care about that. You don't care about you don't make women the metric of your sex appeal. You don't care, right? You're MGTOW. You're black pill. Why would that? Why on earth would you reflexively go to a woman and say, well, this woman over here says that you're an 8 and this woman over here says you're a 2, so screw you. Okay. Well, is that not making women the metric of your freaking life right there? Reflexively? Yes, it is. All right, that's neither here nor there. But the most important part of this scale, of this graph, is really the peak span between 15 and 16 years. And that's, like I said, 23 to about 30. I said 38. You could probably back that off, I guess, to 36 or 37. But in between is the comparative SMV. And that's right there right at the kind of crux between men's appeal and women's declination. Because nature plays a very cruel game to men and women, particularly in this day and age, particularly in how we have arranged our sexual marketplace, our globalizing sexual marketplace. Because we've convinced women that their sexual market peak value years are imperishable. Right? We always say this all the time. Women are depreciating assets. Right? They get to be about 23 or 24, and then they're on that declination. I don't think most guys have a problem with understanding that. Now, can women fight that? Sure. Okay, like I've said before, I did this I mentioned this when I did the episode on the wall. The wall doesn't happen here, if you're watching, ladies. The wall doesn't happen here. The wall happens here. The wall happens when women acknowledge that they've gotten to an age. The wall is coming for Tomi Lahren right now. That's why she's freaking out. That's like, I gotta find a man. I want one that's for me, and like I've got to find the right guy has to be here for me. Where is he? He's not in my front door. You owe this to me, God. That is the hubristic woman at the age of the Epiphany, like right on the door of the Epiphany phase, knowing, because up here, it's not here. I'm comparatively speaking. Like people say, well, she's not all that hot. Well, okay, I realize you're too cool to go bang Tomi Lahren. Oh, but Let's be honest. If you take Tomi Lahren just physically and you put her against the average woman who is, what is the average woman is like 5'7" and she weighs 165 pounds or 70 pounds, I think, in the United States. That's the average woman, like almost a beach ball. So you take Tomi Lahren, you put her against the average American woman. She's pretty attractive. If you didn't know who she was, you'd probably be like, I'll take her over the beach ball. Thank you. So if you look at that, it's not the physical thing. It's a mental thing. She knows that she's not going to be able to compete with her sisters. She's not going to be able to compete for the guys who she wants to get with and start a long-term relationship and get that long-term security with and start a family and have kids and be, financially stable and emotionally stable, God forbid, with her, but wants to still have that long-term security. And I think that a lot of guys don't realize this because that's part of women's timeline, which is right here. So if you look at the end of the party phase, the party years, the hoe phase, right? And then you look at the epiphany and the transition phase that I've designated right here. I've also got up here in gray where it says the competition anxiety. That's when it kicks in. That competition anxiety is exactly what Tomi Lahren is going through right now. She is dealing with that, and that's where the wall happens. The wall happens between the epiphany phase and probably like the first 2 or 3 years of the security phase. If you get past that security phase, then it's like, oh man, that's when women get bitter. That's when women go, where are all the nice guys? What happened to Rollo? What happened to all the nice guys? Matt Hussey, tell all those guys to love me at 34. Please. Matt Hussey, I'll give you any amount of money if you'll just teach these guys who are 36 years old to love me at 48. No, you're done. You're out. You're aged out. Sorry. The guys who are hitting their stride, the guys who are right at the peak sexual market value years, 36, 37, what did Aristotle say? 37 years old, those guys, they're not interested in you. They're not interested in 36-year-old women. They're not interested in 30. They're barely even interested in 30-year-old women. They're interested in women who are like in their 20s. Because now the guys who have played their cards right, the guys who have maximized their potential, are they as good looking? Are they as in great physical shape as they were? Like as if all these guys who hit 36 were at 26 and they were like competitive bodybuilders, right? Like I was an Olympic water polo player and I had a great body, right? I had a swimmer's body. I was so hot. I was so hot. I'm a Zoolander. I was so hot back then. No, most guys are overweight, particularly in Western cultures, but let's talk about like the United States here. What is it? 70% of guys, and well, women too, but like 70% of the population in the United States. I'm probably wrong about 70. I think it's probably more than that now, but let's just go with a nice round number. 70% of the population in the United States is overweight or obese, morbidly obese. The odds are that if you are fat at 36, you're probably, maybe you're a little less fat at 26, but odds are you're probably the average guy who is overweight, kind of schlubby, kind of chubby, dad bod, right? That was probably you even at 26. So to say like, well, I was Giga Chad when I was 25 years old, and now that I'm 37, oh man, I'm fat and schlubby and no woman wants to get with me. No, I mean, if you were good looking back then and you had a dedication to yourself and you understood your own potential, and this is where I think the black pill and the doom pill and I don't even want to pick at them. Like most guys in general sort of drop the ball about this. Even well-meaning red pill guys drop the ball on this. Is they think that they don't understand what I've got an essay about this called the curse of potential. They don't understand that for men, potential is everything, because men must become. So when you hit your stride at 36, 37 years old, you should be that should be the years that you have the most sexual selection in your life. And it's not just about, oh, I've got a lot of money. No, you should still be good looking. You should still be in good shape. There are guys who are in their mid-30s who are freaking phenomenal shape, and they can stay that way. What makes a guy physically attractive, like physically, let's say arousing? Because I I make a distinction between arousal and attraction for women. Let's do the same thing for men, just in this instance right here, because what makes a guy physically arousing, like his jawline, even his jawline, right? Even the things that guys go, oh, the looks max, it's all about these. He's got to have a V taper and all this stuff. Okay, but the things that make a guy arousing, a guy that good looking, carry him further than a woman. We already seen that. You want me to show you the stats again? I just showed it to you from Dataclysm. You go and you look at, well, women of 36 find a man who is 37, 38 years old the most attractive. Oh, what a coincidence. Women of 40, they tend to find a guy who's about 41, 43, somewhere in there. He's the most attractive. That's odd, because according to the black pill, they should be all fucking guys who are 24 years old. That's who they should be going for, because they have all these options, right? They can get with those guys if they want to. They could just drop their drawers and just go for it, man. They're all cougars. They're all potential cougars, right? No, they're not. Because at some point, there is the balance, there's the mixture between those two. Because what these guys do not understand, and this is a common mistake. I'm not just going to pick on one side or the other, but when you have to understand that hypergamy is a two-sided equation. Alpha fucks, beta bucks. AFBB, alpha seed, beta need. And what happens is when you focus on just the physical, like when I say sexual market value, people think, oh, well, you got to look. The guy has to look his best. When does the guy look his best? He doesn't look his best when he's 37 years old. No, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm not just saying this is just, if I was going to say that, I would say this is your physical sexual market value. Like this is how hot you're ever going to be. Okay, well, you can make that argument. It's the same kind of I guess semantic argument, let's just say, as marriage market value. Right? Oh, it's physical market value. Okay, it's marriage market value. Well, now you're just, okay, we want to talk about those, that's fine. But the thing is that whenever there is that distinction between the two of them, you will always see people who gravitate towards one side of hypergamy or the other side of hypergamy. Now I'll start with the beta buck side because that's the easiest. If you look at like guys like Jordan Peterson, or you look at the guys who is particularly trad cons, it's all about like your resources, what honor you have, and are you a good teacher, and do you have all these things that are like these ephemeral, like you've got to be trustworthy, and you have to be generous, and you have to be humorous, and these are all the things that women find attractive. Like the difference between arousal and attraction. I've talked about this before. The attractive side is all the things that are like long-term security benefits for a woman. So does he make a lot of money? Yeah. Okay. We can throw that into sexual market value. Does he love his mom? Does he like puppy dogs? Is he generous? Is he an asshat, or is he kind of a nice guy? Because both of those can be bad, right? To an extreme. You know, women don't want a guy who's just going to be a complete asshole to them all the time, but they also don't want a guy who's a pushover. They also don't want a guy who's a pussy. So, you know, but again, that's on the attraction side. That's on the beta buck side of hyper. That's the equation, right? That's on that side of the equation. You want to balance an equation, right? X equals this. X equals X, right? Ideally you want that balance between the two, but rarely does that happen. But when we're looking at that, most guys, and I hate to beat up on JP, but that's where he goes, because that's what's important to him. That's what he thinks women should want. They should want a guy like this because that's me, right? I'm a college professor. I make X amount of dollars. I drive this car. I own this house. I love my mom. I love dogs. You know, I would be a good dad. I'm a good bet for your future and your future security, right? That means everything. So bang me. We don't want to do that. That's not arousing. That might be good for long-term security, might be good for financial security, and also might be good for emotional security. Because what guys where they lose the narrative is they think that because that guy is saying all like trad cons are into that. Again, I don't want to beat up on one guy or another, but like when Jordan Peterson focuses on that one side, it's because either they don't understand the fact that women really want to get with the hot fireman or the hot guy in the foam cannon party. They want to focus on what they have. They're focused on your strengths. Why wouldn't you? Right? Oh, well, I have all this great stuff. You know, I might not be as good looking as the hot guy in the foam cannon party, but I'm a better bet for your future, baby. So you should want to get really worked up and bang me really hard and because I'm a good catch. That's the good catch. That's what it is. You are the good catch. And so you want the game to be about you being a good catch. You want the game. You want your game. A lot of guys will cater their game. Like, remember I said that everybody has game? It's how effective that game is really the distinction we need to make. But every guy that you know has a game. Even little kids have a game. Like a 10-year-old boy, you ask him, how do I get, Susie to be my girlfriend? He's got some idea. Those are the same guys who, when they get to be 30, they go, yeah, I know exactly how to get Susie to like me. I got to have a house, and I got to have a good job, and I got to have a degree, and I got to make partner in the law team, and I got to be a surgeon. I got to finish my residency, and I got all these things that make the guy a good bet for the future. Well, women don't care about that today when they're 23 years old. They don't care about the guy who's the good catch until they get right here. Until they get to that epiphany / transition phase. That's when good catch guy has a little bit more appeal than the hoe phase or the party years, right? They're not looking for good catch in that orange section right there. They're not looking for the good catch between 20 and 27-ish. Hell, even Tommy Larry, you could just go look at the guys that she's dated in the past, right? Yeah, I think it pretty much plays out. We can see that because that's what women are looking for at that particular time. For guys, like I said, it's easy. They want the girl who is hot, tight, young, fertile. We can add a few other things on there. They're looking for genuine desire, of course, but they're also looking for from a biological evolutionary perspective, the things that make a woman valuable on the sexual market are not exactly the same things that make a guy valuable. And those things don't occur in that guy because it takes longer for the guy to get them. It takes longer for the dude to get to make partner. It takes longer for the guy to have both the good genes, like the alpha fuck side and the beta buck side. And when does a woman need that the most? Easy. Right there. Right at the epiphany phase. That's when women need that the most. That's when it's, I'm going to get right with God. I want him to jump through all these hoops. I need to find a man with benefits. I need a guy who's going to make a partner on the law team. I don't need a guy who's doing his residency. I need a man who's a surgeon already. I need a guy and if I get knocked up by Chad in my party years, I'm not going to try to get Chad to be the father. I'm going to tell the guy with benefits, the guy who's the good catch, I'm going to tell him it's his kid because that works out better. And you could say, well, that's evil. That's unethical. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. But you know what? It is pragmatic. It is very pragmatic. It is efficient. And that's the whole point of this. I'm not trying to depress you. I'm not trying to guide you down. I just work here, man. I'm just showing you the data. I've shown you lots and lots of data in this today. That's all we talked about pretty much up to this point. And the data bears this out and still bears this out. I'm going to talk about the peak span years here in just a second. In fact, those are going to get really important here in just a minute. But the guy who is the good catch, what happens is guys in the black pill, guys who are like, fuck, it's all about looks. And they think that when I talk about this side, when I talk about the 37 years old, side, the 36, 40, like some guys will say, well, it's 40. Okay, well, maybe contextually it might be a little before, might be a little after. Hell, you might be Justin Bieber, and Justin Bieber has lots of money, and he was a cute little kid, and he's out of his fucking mind, but he had all that way before before he was 30. He's not even 36 now. Okay, fine, but that's an outlier. That's like on the opposite end, like the extreme end of the bell curve. Most guys take longer, and women know this and have known this for a long time. Heck, even Aristotle knew this way back in his day. It takes longer for a man to mature into his full potential. That's why he says, don't get married till you're 37 years old. 30 and 7 years. 7 and 30. 7 and 30 years. Do not get married. Spin plates. I'm sure, Aristotle. Should we spin plates, Aristotle? Yes, spin plates, my son, until you're 37. And then you'll be married and you will have an efficient, fantastic marriage with an 18-year-old hottie. What a great, well, God, I was born in the wrong era. So even the wisdom of the ancients knew that men take longer to mature. They take longer to get into their full potential. To get the things that make them the most attractive takes a lot longer than it does for women. Royce used to talk about the 436 bullet point checklist that women had, and you can still look at this today. Now, does that mean all women are like, just they won't be satisfied with anything less? No. Their expectations or their hubristic entitlements fall apart depending on what the guy's really about or what their needs are. That's why I keep saying hypergamy is not a straitjacket, because variables change per that. Like the operative state of that woman is still hypergamy, yes, but the variables, the context in which that woman is in, will allow women to be more, to have open hypergamy or to have a closed secretive hypergamy. And that's just one aspect of that. So if a woman is necessitous, if she, like when guys say, well, I'm going to go over to Southeast Asia, I'm going to go to the Philippines and find me a good feminine wife. You probably will if you have some kind of game too, but the same laws sort of apply. Laws of the sexual marketplace still apply, but you are going to be, and guys rightly figure this out, that you're going to go over there and maybe things are going to be a little bit easy for you. Why do you think that naturally? Why do you think, oh man, I have more of what those women want. I'm a better catch. I'm a white American guy who's like 5'11". I can go to the Philippines and find me some nice little 5'7" Filipino spinner. Yes, I'm over there. Oh man, this is great. This is what did Roosh call it? Pussy paradise. I mean, maybe that's a little exaggerated now in the global sexual marketplace, but that's where your brain goes. That's where your head goes, because you understand instinctively that that woman's condition and the conditions and the socioeconomic conditions and the social conditions and everything else that's going on there predisposes that woman to be, wow, you're really tall. Wow, come over here, Mr. White American guy. Oh, let's sit down and have a bottle of wine. Yeah, well, of course that's going to, and you're going to think that. I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, contextually, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not now. We can talk about that, but that's where your head goes, because you on your your lizard brain understands that you have if you believe that your attractiveness is based on you being the good catch, the beta buck's catch, it behooves you to put yourself into an environment where you can maximize that as your strength. If you're getting blown out because you're not 6'2" and you look like Giga Chad in the United States and you can't get any play in the clubs, yeah, man, I'm sure the Philippines or Thailand or Vietnam looks like a freaking promised land to you. Whether it is or it's not, yeah, I don't know. That's your experience. But that's why you instinctively know that. Why? Well, because you have more of what you think that those women are necessitous for or needy of. They need money. They need a guy who's tall, because you look like a freaking Adonis when you go over there, or you think you do anyways. And maybe you're successful with it. Maybe you bring home 2 or 3. Who knows? But that's an instinctive understanding that guys have. I think guys on like some level of consciousness, some level of some limbic level, they understand how hypergamy works. They just don't talk about it, because to talk about it would make them seem like misogynists or chauvinists, and God forbid you want to be seen as one of those today. But that's how it works. That's where it comes from. You think that if that's the best you can do, if that's the only side of hypergamy that exists, then you're going to maximize that. And if you think that the only side of hypergamy that exists is the arousal side, the short-term sexual side, the look side, the alpha fuck side of hypergamy, you're going to think you're either going to think you're doomed, or you're going to try to find ways to maximize it and play to your strengths. So like I played that. I think did I play it on Rule Zero? I forget where I played it, but there was I've got a post called Have a Look, and I based it on a video that Adam Carolla did one time, and he was talking about how women in Western culture, certainly now, are basically like casting agents. They want the guy they want the tough brother from the streets. They want the guy who's from the Cure. They want the guy who's the rocker, the guy who's got who's into tribal tattoos, the guy who's rides a motorcycle, the guy who's, owns a big truck, whatever it is, like whatever the character is. And that really kind of comes down. Like when I talk about the hot guy in the foam cannon party, that's what I'm talking about. This is the alpha fuck side of hypergamy. I was drunk, he was cute, and one thing led to another. That's that side of hypergamy. And you have to understand that both of those sides play into whatever your sexual market value peak years are. So what do you have the most of, and what makes you the most attractive and what age is that when you get to that? And as I said, just like you understand that women, I think that most men understand hypergamy on some sort of limbic, lizard brain level. Women also understand on some lizard brain limbic level that it takes longer for men to achieve those things. That's why women look for older guys. That's not a cope. That's not like, 23-year-old girls are going to go for 48-year-old guys. Oh, you're a dork. No, that's not what I'm talking about. They don't, by and large, they don't. I'm sure maybe sugar daddies do. Why does that dynamic even exist? Well, because you're the good catch. You've already proven it. You have all of the resources and the material. You have the beta buck side down pretty freaking good, man. And so what do is you compensate for the alpha fuck side of hypergamy with your beta buck side of hypergamy. That's the hypergamous equation. And women today are more than happy to take your money and be, low-level prostitutes. And that's what it is. It's prostitution. OnlyFans is prostitution. You could make a case and say marriage is prostitution. You're just financing it, right? Instead of paying instead of paying rent, you're making long-term payments, right? So you could make those cases, especially for, like, guys will say, well, marriage is prostitution. Yeah, well, that's because you see intersexual dynamics from a transactional perspective. And every guy who is a sugar daddy who buys into seeking arrangements, right? Any guy who's playing that game, I would say that every last one of those guys sees intersexual dynamics from a transactional perspective. And if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. I'm not. Just don't fall in love. Don't pretend that it's something more than it actually is. Because that Pretty Woman, like, remember Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere? Remember that? Oh, women love that. Oh, she's the hooker with the heart of gold. Yeah. If you go and you watch that movie, yeah, she's aging out. She's going to hit her epiphany phase, and she needs the hot guy. So it goes from being this prostitution arrangement to, we're going to fall in love, and she's the hooker with the heart of gold. Of course. Because it follows this right here. That's what it follows. This right here from 20 till about 35, maybe 32 somewhere. That's Pretty Woman. That's Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. That's what there you go. But you could probably write that movie today in using that, and you'd make lots and lots of money because it would seem novel. If you ever want to make always creative writers, script writers, screenwriters, whatever, stick to the basics, stick to the archetypes. So many people we need to stick social justice in here. We need to get this. No, man, write Pretty Woman again. Write Pretty Woman again, because right now people be like, oh, she's the only fans with a heart of gold. All right, I'm done with that. So what makes a guy, puts him at his peak? What is it that makes that guy at his peak potential? And I had to go and sort of defend against it. Like I said, none of the criticisms that are sort of being lobbed against me when it comes to the sexual market value graph here are really anything new. I was looking at some of my old posts here that had to do with sexual market value, and one of the things that I need to I'll just throw this one on there really quickly. This is pretty funny too. Here. I wrote another, like a follow-up post one time to Navigating the Sexual Marketplace, which is where that first, the original graph came from. But this was from SMV and Girl World. And if you were to look at this is how women would like SMV to work. They would like to be like 15 years old and get to be maybe 18 and then have it like be extended forever. Like in fact, I would probably go back and make an addendum to this and carry that pink graph over indefinitely, because this, by the way, is what women would like SMV, like it to work. This is how they would like it to work. They would like it to be that like their sexual market value is evergreen. It is imperishable. They would never ever have to worry about being unattractive. And what's interesting about this is they are social conventions in a feminine primary social order, in gynocentrism. All of those social conventions that are there to sort of placate to women's innate mating strategies all have one thing in common. They want to, in some way, convince women that it never runs out, that they can be sexually attractive at 70. They can be OnlyFans girls at 65. It never ends. Like the party never ends. And the truth is, and party does end, right? I mean, once a woman hits about 30 years old, her odds of conceiving and carrying a pregnancy to term are like far, far decreased. But what do we tell women? We say, oh, your biological clock is ticking. At what, 32, 33? No, your biological clock was ticking when you were 23, 10 years ago. Because that's when you were hottest. That's when you're in the best shape. That's when you could carry a baby to term and not die. From an evolutionary perspective anyways, that was when you had the highest chance of you getting pregnant, but you waited this long. And now what pisses women off is they're starting to see the data that shows that once they get past a certain age, the odds of them even conceiving are much lower. And even carrying that child to term are far, far lower than when they were in their 20s. But we don't tell them that, because they're enjoying that agency. They're enjoying that power. They seem very powerful. That's why you look at incels and doom pillars. They think that women are very powerful when they're on OnlyFans. They're showing off their ass and they can't, like, you got guys, like I said, I've said this before, those guys who are spending small fortunes on their favorite OnlyFans girl, and then they get pissed off and dump her, and they find another one and they repeat the cycle again. Okay, like they're going through a relationship and they're doing it from the safety of behind their screens right now. Back in the day, we actually used to have to engage with women and get blown out and get rejected and go drink a lot of beer and then get over it and go on to the next one. But now this is a cycle that guys get off on. But what guys think, and I'm looking at you, black pill, doom pill guys, is they think that women's sexual agency is evergreen. They buy into this idea that, well, it doesn't matter what the girl is. She can get laid anytime she wants. Guys are always necessitous. They're always wanting to fuck these girls, right? Oh, because there are variables where the guys that those women want to get with, they can't get with those guys after a certain time. They're not going to be able to get the guy who is hitting his prime they're not going to be able to get with the guy who's in his peak years, who's not looking for women in her demographic. The guy who is, where is it? The guy who is actually I should go back here. The guy who is at his sexual market value peak, who realizes this, who is not ignorant, who is red pill aware, who understands the game, who understands the dynamics between him and women, everything. The guy who played his cards right. I'm not saying he remained a virgin until he got to that age, but he played his cards right. And now he's, as Uncle Aristotle said, 37 years old. Now he can look back and go, well, I can get with the girls that I wanted to get with when I was 25, right? When you see that part right there where it's like right around 23, where that's sort of that gradual incline. Most guys are unless you are an exceptionally good looking guy at 15, 16, 17, you're in your high school years, unless you're the high school quarterback, you're probably not getting laid. How do I prove that? How do I know that that's statistically true? Well, all you have to do is look at the general survey study of 2019, and you look at the guy, and you look at the amount of sex that guys are having from age 18 till they're 29, I think is what it was. And you guys are not getting laid. Sorry, you're not getting laid. between 18 and 24. You probably don't. I don't want to make this anecdotal. All I can do is use the stats that I have. So I'm going to use the GSS study from, I think it was 2018, 2019. And essentially it says that guys in that cohort, 18 to 29, are having the least amount of sex of any generation, if they're having sex at all. The least amount of sex at any generation. Women of that time, in that cohort, they're having a little bit less, but not even, doesn't even come close to the kind of like sexual deficit that these guys are having. So who's having the sex with the women? Well, might be the guys who are a little bit older, might be the guys who are maybe that top 20% of guys. So some guys are getting laid because a lot of these other women are, so all these women are having sex with guys who are not the average guy who is in that cohort. So guys are not having sex between, say, let's say 15 through 24, right? We go halfway through the 18 to 24 or 18 to 29 cohort. That's probably about 24 years old. So, and that's the GSS study from 2018 or 2019. I can't remember, but I remember when that came out and like every MGTOW, every black pill guy on planet Earth was like, see, sweet vindication. That's not vindicating anything that you think of. It's just showing you that you guys have opted out of the game. And it's not something to be proud of, right? It's not something to be like, oh, well, we're not having good. More guys aren't. No, there's the same guys who are having sex are still having sex and you're not. You're opting out of that, whether that's your own thing or whatever, whether that's you deciding to do that or you getting locked out of the sexual marketplace. I don't know, because they're never going to do a study like that. But I think we can safely say that the fact that that generation of guys who are having less and less sex I would say it's probably not because they don't want to have sex. Maybe it's because of pornography. Maybe it's because of OnlyFans. Maybe it's because of the sexual marketplace. There's all kinds of variables, but that doesn't change what makes the guy at his maximal, sexual appeal. And as I said before, women have some sort of concept, I think, some sort of subconscious concept from the time they're 5 years old, maybe, I don't know, maybe puberty. Let's just say 12 years old, right? Where they know what they like. They know what turns them on. And I wrote about this. Like, guys, here's what gets me is like the guys who are criticizing they're criticizing this, but they don't go and they don't look at the timeline that I do in preventive medicine. Because if you look at the top there where I say alpha short term at the very top, look at that. It says from like 15 all the way to, up into the security phase. The reason why I put alpha short term, that's what I meant, is alpha short term sexual interest. Physicality, look at that right below there. Physicality. You will find this graph in my 2015 book, Preventive Medicine. Okay. Physicality. Yes, you are 100% right, Mr. Doom Pill, Black Pill guy. You're right. Women are interested in physicality well into their early 30s. In fact, probably even more than that right now too. That doesn't change, but that doesn't mean other things don't get added to it. So you'll notice that below that, you'll see status, affluence, provisioning as it goes up. Because as men get to the point where they are hitting that peak potential, that's when status and affluence and provisioning and all the things that make a guy a good catch, that's when guys start to get more of that. Do you remember, I think it was Rich who said this, and I did a full show based on this, and I did a full essay on this too. Where Rich said this, he says, women don't care about men's struggles. They only wait at the finish line and they bang the winners. Well, a lot of guys took issue with that. Oh no, women, they're good women and they can see potential because they have some like magical wisdom to see potential in guys. And maybe some do, maybe some have a little bit more insight than others, but today, by and large, it's in the global sexual marketplace that the perception is all that matters to women. So it's tough for women to really see potential in a guy, and they sure as shit don't want to wait for it. They want the potential when it's available. So when I talk about a guy taking longer to achieve the things that make him maximally attractive, that peak him out, that max him out at his peak sexual market value, that guy is not 26 years old. That guy is 36 or 37 years old because it takes him longer to get his doctorate. It takes that guy longer to start his business. It takes that guy longer to get the worldly experience that he needs to be The guy who is maximally attractive and not just physically. That's important. Yes, you're 100% right. If you can be Giga Chad at 37 and you have your shit together and you may partner in the law team, man, the world is your oyster. And the women will come running because you have everything that they want. Wow. How is this a hard concept to understand? It's not just about alpha fucks. It's not just about beta bucks. It's about the meshing. It's about the bringing of those two together when we talk about sexual market value for guys. How long did it take you to get that? Maybe some guys max out sooner. Maybe they max out later. You want to know why guys go through, or what women with like social, feminized social world, like a gynocentric social order wants you to think anyways. You want to know why guys go through a midlife crisis at 38. And women like laugh.
You're a ridiculous man. You're trying to relive your youth.
The reason why women get upset about guys going into a midlife crisis is because it's not a crisis. The guys get to it. You want to know why it was such a big, like there was a whole movie, was in the 80s or something like that, like midlife crisis, whatever. It was a big joke for a long time, 80s and the 90s. Even now, I guess people still sort of cling to this idea that guys go through this midlife crisis. They go through, the average guy does, in fact, go through a midlife crisis and has been doing so really since the sexual revolution. That's when we started thinking of guys having a midlife crisis, but it's not a midlife crisis. It's guys realizing the game. It's guys getting to the point where they're 37 years old, maybe 40. We call it 40, but let's just be honest. Like if you get to the point where maybe it takes longer to have it, but I don't know. When you get to the point where you are at your maximum potential, your highest potential for being sexual market value, right? You get at the highest peak right there, but you've already made decisions that limit you from exercising what would have been a really great life or a really great decisions, choices you could have made if you would have just stuck it out. So you hit 35, 36 years old, and you're unmarried, and you've stayed in really good physical shape, and you started your own business, or you made some, you're a scientist, you made some great discovery, right? Or you made, like I hate using the term like, oh, you made my partner on the law team. Maybe you own the law team. Maybe you have something financial, you have all the things that make you the good catch there, and you're still all really good looking, but you decided to get married when you were 27, 28. And you get to the point where you're 37 years old and you go, shit, I could have had that. You want to know when guys like start thinking about, affairs and stuff like that. Those are the guys who have the option to actually do so, but they're they made bad decisions, or I don't say bad, but they made different decisions prior to this part right here, prior to where I have the comparative SMV value, right? At 30 years old. That's the delineation point right there, where women are on their definitive downswing of their sexual market value, and men are on their definitive upswing towards their peak potential of sexual market value. And guys make bad decisions right there, right around 20, anywhere between like say 25 and 30 years old. Because they're very idealistic. They want, like guys at that age, they definitely want to lock down a woman. It makes sense, right? You want to get a girl who's still hot and fun, and you want to have babies with her and start a life, and that's the way we used to do it. And shit, I mean, what did I just show you? In the 50s and the 60s, people used to get married at 22 and 20. Yeah, but I can also show you stats where if you do that, the likelihood of you getting divorced are very, very astronomically high right now. In fact, today, most guys don't get married until what? Until they're about, what in the United States, 29.8. And women at 28 years old. That's the prime demographic for first age of marriage in the United States anyways. And it's actually later than that in the UK. Now, why is that? I think primarily it's not because men wouldn't want to get married earlier, because most beta men would love to lock down a hot girl, a girl who's going to be better looking in her 20s than they want to get with a girl who is older than that. And so when guys are at 29.8 and they make that decision, They're usually doing it because maybe their wife is like a year younger or hopefully 3 years younger. Usually that's how it works. Maybe not. We don't know. But those guys getting married, I think they're making a good decision. And then they get to be 36, 37 years old and they realize that they're making more money. They're really attractive. The hot girl that's their secretary or whatever, whoever they're flirting with, really finds them attractive. And they think, damn, I played my cards too soon. I should not have done that. That's when they go into a midlife crisis, or what we call a midlife crisis, because those guys who were blue pill and still plugged into the matrix when they got married, they're what was it? Ryan told me this. The red pill married forum on Reddit. So they're awakened while married, and that's when they go, oh shit! I just read this book, The Rational Male, and this oh man. I made a bad. I wish I would have known this before I made that decision. Well, that's why I did this. That's for you guys, so you don't have to be that guy in your midlife crisis going, damn, I should have held out longer. So when guys tell you that rollotomassi says, or they say, this graph right here is a cope. No, it's not a cope. This is so you don't get fucked up. This is so you don't make bad decisions. This is so when you get to be 30 years old, when you get to be right here in that peak span years, and you're at that comparative stage, and you're young, dumb, and full of you know what. When you're at that, this is to help you. So when you get to that point, you can be in a position where you won't go through a midlife crisis, where you won't go. You'll be like, I'm hitting my stride. Why would I? I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I didn't cash out before I had the chance. Imagine this. What do we tell women when they get to be 23, 24 years old, 22, 23, and they want to get married, and they do get married? What do we tell those girls? Oh, you're throwing your life away. Oh, you have so much potential. Why would you do that now? Why don't you focus on your career? Why don't you focus on your education? Why don't you focus on your passions? Because you're at your peak years of your peak agency. Think of all the world is your oyster, 22, 23-year-old girl. Why would you throw it all away? But we don't tell that to guys. No. We don't tell them that. We tell them it's your responsibility to develop resources and be the best you can be, because when a woman needs you the most, right at 30 years old, right at the epiphany phase and the transition phase, we tell guys, if you're not ready to be a husband and a father by the time you're 30, you're a kidult. You're perpetuating your adolescence. You didn't maximize yourself. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, because women are going to really need you when they're done with their hoe phase, when they're done with their party phase. They're really going to need you right then and there. Tommy Lahren, man, 28 years old. She really needs you. Where are you? Man up. You know? That's the standard. So why is it I have a daughter who's 22 years old right now. I think she should use those years to max. I'm not saying she shouldn't get married before she's 30. She should, but I'm not going to tell her not to. I'm not going to tell her not to maximize her potential. She should. She's almost done with college anyways, but why not? Why not use those years? Why is it that's okay to say, don't hold off on marriage for another 4 years, and then if you find somebody, get it going together, whatever, fine. But why is that wrong? Why is it wrong for me to say, dear baby Tomassi, you're 22 years old. You should be married right now. I should have grandchildren by now. God forbid. But how come, you don't have them already, right? Well, that's one thing. If I'm going to tell that, but what if I'm telling that? Why would I tell that? Why would I limit that from my daughter? But if I had a son, that I would say, be dumb and idiotic and be useful and serviceable when you're 30 years old, so that when you're 36 or 37, like Aristotle says, that you'll go through a midlife crisis because you'll realize your wasted potential, or you won't be able to realize the choice and the selectivity that you will have at 36, 37 years old that a 23-year-old girl will get by default, because she matures faster than you. Why? Why is that any different? So when I you'll find this in in the first book, I have an essay in there called The Threat. And the threat is that, what is the threat? The threat is, I have a saying in the threat. Anyway, I'm gonna paraphrase myself. Do I have it up here? Maybe I do. This is Jenny. Okay. So in the thread, I said this is that, in fact, it starts the essay out with this. It says that there's nothing that is more simultaneously threatening, but also attractive to a woman than a guy who understands his own value to women. So women will always try to hold you down when it comes to you being like, they'll say, oh, you're cocky and you're full of yourself and you're, but women love that, by the way. They absolutely love a guy who actually is valuable and realizes that he is, and is cocky about it, is funny about it, is maybe, good natured about it, but like, just be conceited, I guess, but maybe you can a little bit. But women get threatened by that, but at the same time, it's hot to them because they realize a guy who realizes that he's valuable to women and is overt with that. That's a dangerous combination because women want to get with that guy, assuming he can back it up. He's authentically like, it comes from a place of authenticity. They want to get with that guy, but it's also threatening because they don't think they can get with that guy because he knows. He knows his selectivity. He knows his choice. And that's why it's threatening. So when rollotomassi shows you this or this, that gives up the game. This right here is open hypergamy. This timeline is open hypergamy. This graph is open hypergamy. It's all on the table. And the guys who are watching this, or the guys who read my book, the guys who even just instinctively, I don't even have to tell you guys this, you just instinctively, it's become unignorable, but you instinctively figure this out on your own just by being online, because I think more and more guys are sort of waking up. That's a threat. It's a threat to women's mating strategy because they're not going to be able to optimize it, assuming the guy has the gumption to follow through with it. That's a threat. That's why I said it was a threat. It's attractive because the guy knows that he's got his shit together and he knows that women want him, but he can't be allowed to think that. So women go, oh, you think you're all that. Mm-hmm. Or guys who will play themselves, like I've said, where guys will say, well, they think that they must become less, so she becomes more. Like they are self-deprecating by default, like it's a reflex for them. Those guys are the antithesis, or the exact opposite of what I'm talking about when it comes to like being cocky and understanding your own value. Those guys don't understand their own value because they're still beta males, and they're trapped usually in relationships where they think that if they self-deprecate, that's funny and it'll endear their wives or their girlfriends to them, and it actually has the opposite effect of that. So anyways, so that is that part. Well, I'm trying to think what else I've got to tell you guys here. We're coming up on almost 2 hours. But so I wanted to make sure that you guys understand that this is 8 years old. And I think the most important part of this, with respect to the difference here, is that 23 to 36, 37, I know I put it at 38, but let's just say 36, 37-year-old span right there. That is where game happens. Game happens between 23 and this is where it's very important for you to be red pill aware. You need to be red pill aware when you're 15, right? The other thing is a lot of guys will, I got this from women way back in the day. They said, well, that rollotomassi, he really wants to get with 15, wants to get with underage girls. He made 15 the first age. Yeah, I did that because that's when high school guys ask me about their high school girlfriends. And so that's why I started the timeline at 15 years old. Not because I want to get with 15-year-old girls, but because I had guys in the high school forum at So Suave asking me, how do I get my girlfriend to go out to kiss me? How do I get my girl? I'm 17 years old and I'm planning to go to college, but I'm going to go to a different college because I've been with my girlfriend since she was 15 and I want to facilitate the relationship, and I'm going to make these really bad decisions based on my idealism and my one-itis and my soulmate myth mentality at 17 years old. That's why it starts there. So go ahead and throw rocks at me all you want. That's the real reason for that. I'm going to back up a little bit here. I'm sorry, you guys. I have been completely ignoring the chat as I have been going along here. So I am going to back up because I'm sure you have plenty of really good questions for me. Woo, yeah, you do. Tim, so I talked to you about that. Tim VA, I wanted to make sure that I covered this because this is what I was talking about throughout the whole, I guess, lecture. Rollo, I believe those peaks SMV charts are flawed with reality. Most men prefer maturity, lifestyle compatibility for a long-term relationship over youth and beauty. Bullshit. A 21-year-old girl cannot offer LTR compatibility to most men 35 plus. Okay. You're making a fundamental error here in that you think that when a guy is 36, 37 years old, that he ought to be getting with the 18-year-old. Yes, I know Aristotle says that. Realistically, that's probably not going to happen today. And most guys are not going to, if you're at a point where you are, I think what you're doing here, Tim, is you're assuming that guys are not going to go back for young. What would be young enough? Like, really? If you were, what did you say, 35? Say you're 35, 36 years old. Okay, maybe 18 is much. I agree. Okay, maybe 21 is much. How about 27? So you're 37 and she's 27. Is that 10-year difference okay? Is that what, like, where do you drop the line? Should a 36-year-old guy go with an older woman because she's more mature? That's what a gynocentric social order would love for you to believe. That's why when women, even to this day, women will say, yeah, I'm hitting my sexual prime at what, 40 years old? No, you're not. The reason you're saying that is because women want to get with guys they will say, I'm comfortable in my body right now. Yeah, well, I don't want to be comfortable in your body. I want to be comfortable in younger, hotter, tighter. That's my biological imperative. That's what men, by and large, find attractive. They're arousing anyways. I want a long-term relationship with a woman who's what do you think, going older? I don't think I stated this quite well. One reason why women want a guy who's older is because on some level of consciousness, they realize that it takes longer to get the things that make a guy more like at his peak potential, like burden of performance. They want a guy who's maximizing his potential. And there's nothing worse for a guy than wasted potential. And women will ferret that out easy. If you're the 35-year-old guy who has not made much of himself, or 36, and you're supposed to be at that point, that's almost a turn off. Although I will say this, and I wrote this in I've written 2 essays about why it is that women who are younger go for mature men. And this is not a cope. This is just theory. Okay, and this is spitballing here. The reason why I got women who are attracted to older men when it comes to, usually it's resources. Let's be honest. Usually it's a transaction of resources, but there's also that transaction of, or that presumption of wisdom. There's also that when it comes to like amused mastery, and amused mastery is it was a PUA technique, but it works because of psychological and evolutionary reasons. So what's amused mastery? It is a guy knowing what's coming next. It's the guy who goes, yeah, oh, aren't you darling? You know, it works so. Amused mastery is like you're master of your environment, you're master of your world, you're master of your frame. It's like it implies frame. That's why it's such a good technique, right? It's you have a world that the young lady wants to enter into, and you're going to be there. Now, a lot of women will say, well, that's just you. He's just the father that you never had. Maybe that's part of it, but it's also the fact that this guy, because he is older than you, let's say 10 years older than you, he should, the lizard brain thinks, he should have more knowledge, more wisdom, more money, more mastery of his frame, of his world, of where he lives, who he is himself, his judgment of character of other people. He knows things that I don't know. And that makes him sort of intriguing. That makes him a challenge. That makes him somebody that she wants to get. Oh, you're an old guy. Yeah, I am. But I know what comes next. And I know what you're going to say next. And it's like this, it's almost this cocky, funny thing, but it comes to like, it's what's called amused mastery. And amused mastery is a whole lot easier to have if you actually have the mastery, right? And you have the like women have the presumption that an older guy should have those things. That's a biological thing. That's an evolutionary thing. The older guy should have more mastery and more control and be more powerful than the younger guy should be. Like from the good catch side of things, from the beta buck side of hypergamy. Like if the guy can look like Harrison Ford in his prime, or he can look like, Sean Connery in his prime, he can still be older and look good and still be attractive and arousing for that woman. Maybe not as much as the guy who is like of her age or a little bit young or a little bit old, just a touch older than her. But the thing is his attraction is not just the arousal, but it is also the attraction side of it too. So he's good looking and she really wants to bang him. But the added bonus, the real added bonus, is the fact that he has a muse mastery, that he's the master of his world, and he knows this. Again, the threat. He knows his value. That's where that comes from. It's not so much cocky funny as it is a muse mastery. Like it's almost like treating the girl like your kid's sister, and this is mystery method, right? Or it's like treating her like a daughter or like a younger, I say subordinate, but like one generation to another. And that guy, the psychological presumption is that an older guy is the guy who's already crossed the finish line. Remember what we talked about with Rich, when Rich was saying, women don't care about the struggle, and they don't, but they want to wait at the finish line and bang the winners. The problem with that is that women's sexual market value is perishable. So they only have so long to get with those winners, because those winners, when they get across the finish line at 36, 37 years old, they might not want the run through, tired, used up 32-year-old, 33-year-old girl who's looking who thinks she's entitled to the winner, because that guy is not, once he's crossed the finish line at 36 years old, 37 years old, he's not looking for 33, 34-year-old girl. He's looking for a 27-year-old girl. He's looking for the girl who's younger, hotter, tighter. And again, biological reasons, evolutionary reasons is, she can carry a child to term. She's got childbearing hips, whatever. But that's the dynamic. That's why women look for guys who are, by and large, statistically, women look for men who are 3 to 7 years older than they are for long-term relationships, for marriage, for whatever. It's also why when men and women get married earlier, that's like taking a bet really, really early in the game. So if a woman is like, say, 22 and the guy's 24, 23, 24, what she's doing is she's betting her future and her children's future and everything else on this guy's potential to cross the finish line at 36, 37 years old. That's one of the worst fears that women have. One of their worst fears is, like I said, the existential fear is to get with a guy who she thought was alpha, who turns out to be beta. This is a variation of that, in that she married the guy when he was untested and unproven, and she thought he had potential, and she thought her hypergamous filter, her feminine intuition, she was going to follow that. He's a good bet. He's a good catch. Well, what happens when he turns out not to be a good catch? That's when he gets divorced, and all these things are in a gynocentric social order are already in place to benefit her. So it's kind of like a fail-safe. Like in a gynocentric social order, there are many fail-safes against that. But why is it that younger couples tend to end up in divorce? Well, because women make bad early bets, and they live vicariously through their girlfriends during their hoe phase, when instead they're at home with 3 kids playing house while their sisters are having girls' night out in Vegas. And then they realize, oh, he's not going to cross the finish line. Oh, well, I'll divorce him. I'll take the money, and that'll be that. Killed the party, right? Let's keep going. I just wanted to throw that out there, because I don't think critics of that graph, or even the timeline, really realize that the need to get with an older guy comes from the urgency of hypergamy. So when a woman is at her prime at 23 years old, she's not thinking about getting with the guy who's 33 years old. She's not looking for long term, because she's at the peak of her power and her peak of her potential. And she's selective. Is this guy better? Is this guy better? And she's trying, like, I want to bang this guy. Giga Chad looks hot. This guy looks good. I want to get with that guy. Maybe I'll get with this guy. And it goes on and on and on until she turns into Tommy Lahren at 28 years old. And she knows that the party's going to, the lights are going to go out pretty soon, and the carousel's going to stop. And now she's got to make a good long-term choice. And Again, in a gynosexual social order, we try to convince women that the party's never going to end, that it's never going to stop, the carousel's never going to stop spinning, and she can just go on and on and on. And I think that there's going to be a conflict between what like society and her girlfriends and everything else tells her versus like what her biology and what she realizes. Like I said, the wall is here. It's not here. And how competitive she can be later on in life. Is she really, really hot? Can she stay that way? Some do. Like I've seen some really hot 34-year-old girls who still have a good selectivity, but they're very few, like noticeably few. So, but the reason for that is women have to balance getting with the winner who already passed the finish line. Like even Myron will say this, like girls have rappers and rock stars in their DMs and they're at the club and you can't compete against that. Yeah, but how many of those girls are there? Like of the millions of girls, how many of them have guys in their like rap stars in their DMs? Like the ones you want to get with maybe. But I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, there's also the law of statistics here. Like who's worth those guys' attention? They can bang whoever they want. Sure. Okay, fine. Yeah, I 100% agree. But those guys have crossed the finish line. According to women, they've already crossed the finish line. He's got $1 million and he looks hot and he's 28 years old and I want to get with him and lock him down. He's a star athlete. He's an NBA player. He's a football player, whatever. Yeah, he's crossed the finish line. He's got a lot of money. He's still in good shape. And he's already at his peak potential at 28 instead of 38. That's not most guys. In fact, that is precious few guys. That is like statistically anomalous guys. That do women want to get with them? Sure they do. But are they going to? No. And so what that causes women to do is they still have to figure out like who's the good bet, who's got potential and who doesn't. And that's hard for women to figure out. But they do or they try to anyways, because they try to make good bets. Well, this guy's going to make a lot of money in the future. Why? How do you know that? Well, he said he's doing his residency. He's going to be a surgeon soon. Okay, so that's that. Jeff Jones says, I live in Maine. We got to you. Atham, thank you for that kitty sticker. Atham says, sorry for your loss. Thank you. Yes, maybe I'll talk about it on Wednesday. I don't know. I'm still trying to sort things out. I've never tried to do anything like this. My dad, when my father died in 2010, it was like really quick, but I knew he was going to die because he had like dementia, Alzheimer's, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when. This was different circumstances. Let's see. Tobias Varela. Are you Panamanian? Read your first 3 volumes, changed my life. Thank you. Shout out to Nico Chosky. Yeah, I think I got to you already. Jason the Dream says, sorry for your loss. Thank you. Yes, Maine is beautiful. I meant the women here are not. Yeah, well, geographically. You know how I hate that some people always criticize me for like SMV, like, oh, you're SMV 8. You're an SMV 10. It's like the same thing for like HB10, like the old school PUA ratings, like what is it, Hot Babe or Hot Bitch 10, Hot Bitch 8, Hot Babe 6, that kind of stuff. I think something should be added to that. I think there's like a psychological value, like the crazier a girl is should have a rating too. like you can be an HB6, you can be an HB9, but like your your psychotic rating or whatever, like your mentality rating might be a 4. That's a bad combination. Like a really hot girl who's crazy. There should be a rating for that, I think. But that's geographic too, by the way. Like the girls in South Beach are all that rating system. Like I have my own. I think what's funny is like when we talk about like sexual market value, most guys almost always default to arousal, the arousal side of hypergamy. Like what makes them valuable and what makes women valuable? Well, women who are hot are valuable. So therefore, men who are hot must be valuable too. No, men and women are different. Women are looking for a guy who is the balance of the hypergamous balance, the hypergamous equation. Guys, as I showed you from the dataclysm data, they want a woman who's about 22 years old. They can be 80 years old. They want a 22-year-old. They can be 15 and they want a 22-year-old or 20-year-old, something like that. That's the difference. You want to know about the physical difference right there? There's your fit there, and there's the data that backs it up. So it's not just about physique all the time. I'm not saying it's not important. In fact, I would say it's the most important thing. But there are other factors that go along with that as well. And it depends on where that woman is at whatever phase of maturity she's at. That's why I put the timeline out there. Let's see. Amar Kermani. Amar. Thanks. Just got my Rational Male Volume 1. Not only thought-provoking, but also motivating. Please keep spreading the knowledge. I am doing my best. Josh Holloway says, is it nearly impossible to have an LTR, long-term relationship, with a woman that is younger than 23 because her options being so high during her peak SMV years, late 20s, male dating, early 20s for female? Okay, so this is a very similar question to what Tim was asking me a minute ago. Should you even try to get with a woman who, like in the long term, who's 18? Like follow Father Aristotle, or Uncle Aristotle said we should do this. Well, like I said, Aristotle, times have changed, Uncle. So do you want to get with a girl who's 18 and you're 30? I mean, maybe sexually that seems like a really fun time, but I don't think you're going to have an LTR with that girl. And I'll tell you why. Because you might, even if the girl is really like, she's idealistic. She's like, I love you. I want to get with you. You're 30 years old and I'm 18. And you like what guys will do. If a 30-year-old guy, a 33-year-old guy gets into a relationship with a like 18 or 19-year-old girl, he's going to make up like reasons why it's going to work. Like it's totally going to work out. She's very mature for her age. I'm sure you've heard that one before. Guys will try to they'll make up any rationale to keep that poontang coming in. And so they'll go, well, I'm going to train her. Well, I'm going to put her through college. I'm going to teach her a thing or two. That's that older man, younger woman dynamic that I was telling you before. It's the mature man. It's the amused mastery of the mature man. And I'm not saying, especially women with daddy issues who have never had a daddy or who've had a bad daddy. Those women might be looking for that. And they will make up reasons why they're doing it too. And so you get a guy who's sort of this beta male, he can't believe his luck, and he's 33 years old, and he's just entering into his prime, and he gets with a girl who's like, let's just say 19. He'll make up reasons, she'll make up reasons, and they'll get together. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is a bad idea. First of all, it's the youth thing. But at some point along the way, when she's 29 instead of 19, she's going to go through the epiphany phase, and she's going to go through the time where she realizes that, oh my God, I'm not going to be sexually competitive with my sisters anymore. Because what you're expecting her to do is to just remain static, to remain in that idealistic kind of like teenage dream stage for forever. And that's not going to happen. Again, hypergamy is not a straitjacket. And this is one of those factors that there's lots of variables that happen in the 10-year span between 19 and 29 years old. So what women will usually do is they will go through what I call the making up for missing out phase. So when that girl is 29 and she goes, damn, I could have done better. I made a bad bet. I made it too early. I got with a guy who I thought was, now he's now he's 43 years old and I'm 29. And she might think, well, I need to get rid of this guy while I'm still hot enough, or I can still get a better guy. That's when you get I want an open relationship. I want to be poly. That's because now we legitimize and normalize that. Maybe not in the past, but certainly now we do. And that's when you'll get requests for an open relationship, or I don't like where this is going, or I was young and stupid back then and now I'm not. You will get making up for missing out at some point. Tamid Shadman says, dated a girl who was a year older than me. She was 20 and I was 19 and asked me to be exclusive. What does that mean? Well, it's 1 year, dude. 1 year. That means that she likes you and she probably sees some kind of potential in you. When I was dating my own wife, and I don't like to use my own personal situation with, in these as anecdotes, because I'd rather use statistics than my own. But since you are relating your own personal thing here, when I was dating my wife, I was dating her non-exclusively. I was spinning plates at the same time. And she was dating other guys too, but I was the guy that she wanted to be with. And she hit me up and she said, I don't like the idea of you being with other women. I want to be exclusive. I had to think about that for a little bit, but then I thought, okay, well, she's the hottest one. She's the funnest one in bed. So, okay, yeah, whatever. And it was interesting because usually when I have been in prior to that, before, when I've been in long-term relationships, it was usually either some kind of like we just fell into the relationship, or it was me trying to like establish a relationship, like me going, oh, well, will you go steady with me? Or will you be my girlfriend? Will you be my wife? Well, whatever. It was always me going, like putting myself out there. And I did this inadvertently without really realizing it. But one of the, like, if you look at the, I think it's the first commandment of Royce's 16 Commandments of Poon, which is never say I love you first. I didn't do this on purpose, but this is the way it happened, is like she told me she loved me first. And I was like, and so that, like, now in hindsight with red pill lens, I realized that was an expression of genuine desire. She wanted to be with me. She didn't like me being with other guys, with other women. And I didn't like the idea of her being with anybody else either at that point. But I was out of a relationship with the BPD girl. And so I was playing the field, and I was like, hey, you want to be on exclusive? I'm good with that. I'm happy to have you on the roster. I didn't realize I was spinning plates at the time, but I was spinning plates. And then it was sort of an unavoidable thing because we really liked each other, and we really were eventually in love with each other. And she was the one who expressed it to me first, and that's how that worked. So, so I think really what you have to look at is that is an expression of genuine desire. So if she's coming to you and you're not going to her, like it depends on, like I said, that's all about frame. If you are in your frame, that woman can't wait to get with you. Genuine desire is the number one. Everything else flows after genuine desire. So I was answering this. I answered this question on Twitter. I forget who's the blonde chick who's the farmer girl. I can't remember. She's a rancher girl. She says, gentlemen, what do you find? Like, give me 5 aspects of femininity or women that you would find, would be what you would want in a long-term relationship with a woman. And I can only think of one. And that's genuine desire, because anything else that guys can, I want her to be feminine. I want her to be a good conversationalist, and she's got to be a good mom, and she's got to, none of that makes any difference unless she has genuine, 100% unmitigated, unconditional, unnegotiated, genuine ass, hot monkey sex desire for you. If that's not there, none of that matters. All of it is a contrivance. It's all contrived if there's no desire there. And I would tell that to the guys who are like seeking arrangements and they're sugar daddies. You know what? You can bang her, but you can bang prostitutes too. Do they really want to be with you, or are they obligated to be with you? Is she a ride or die girl? Okay. Well, is she a ride or die girl when the stock market crashes and you don't have any money? So it's all about genuine desire. Rollo, Wando says, Rollo, so Aristotle was the first red pill coach. Yes, he was. Zomboy says, do you know if there is a good return on investment, ROI, in getting an education in the field of evolutionary psychology? Depends on where you go and what you do with that. I already told you that. Wando again says, wonder if the Lyceum had a Rule 0 John MLD. I doubt they had John MLD. Let's see. Louis Mikado says, hello, Rollo. Just wanted to tell you, finally got a copy of The Rational Male. Thank you for all your work. You're welcome. Michael retracted. Oh, here it is. Michael, you have this. Michael said this. Hi, Rollo. Read your first 2 books. Good. Great work. I'm 29 years old and spinning plates. One plate is 35-year-old single mother. Ugh. Dude. Great sex, and I'm training frame control with her and is going well. Any opinions? Yes. Keep her at arm's distance. She is the necessitous one right here. If she's a single mother at 35 years old, like, don't invest yourself emotionally in that. And God forbid you knock her up. Don't. If she's a single mother and she had babies with another guy and she got that guy into that situation, she will do the same thing to you at some point. So be very careful of that. When I was just saying before is that when women are looking for the guy who has the potential, they're looking for the winner who's about to cross the finish line. Right? They want to get as close to that finish line and as close to the winner as they can. That's not always possible, But hypergamy can't afford to miss out on the perfect optimization opportunity. So when the guy is, even if you are younger and she is older, that dynamic is still in play. So she sees you at 29, she's having a good time. She thinks you're fun in bed and you're, 6 years younger than her. Sure, she probably loves that. But she ain't getting any younger. And she probably loves the fact that you are 29 and you could probably get with girls that are much younger than her, but you're going after her. Don't make training her or frame control, or don't make excuses for yourself. Don't make rationales for yourself. You need to be spinning plates, is what you need to be doing. You should not in any way be locked in with this girl. Now, he says you're spinning plates, but if you were spinning plates, this one girl at 35 would be just a footnote in your roster. Yeah, I got with a girl who's 6 years older than me. Now I'm going to move on to this 22-year-old. That's the way it should work. You should not be training frame control, because what that does is that says to me that you have an invested interest in her, and you should not. Back off, put her at arm's distance. There you go. Tim from VA says, again, about the dataclysm data of men rating women. 21-year-old girl is hottest, but it does not mean older women would want a long-term relationship with such a young girl. Okay, well, here's what you do, Tim. You do what I've told every other guy who's asked me this question. If you're 36 years old and you go, I don't want to get with a girl who's flighty and fickle and stupid at 21. I need a girl with some maturity that I can have a conversation with. And who would that be? What would that look like? What is it? Would she look like, what is it? Let's see. Sandberg, like Sheryl Sandberg, Sandbergian hypergamy. I want a girl who's opinionated and not afraid to speak her mind. I want a girl who wants an equal partner. Is that what you're looking for? Because what I've told guys in the past is, if that's your case, if you say, "Oh, I don't want a girl who's like 18 to 21. I don't have anything in common with them. I can't really talk to them." Well, what do you want? Do you want a girl who's in her epiphany phase, who is looking at you not from genuine desire, but fulfilling that need? It doesn't matter. Like I've said, this is that like women want a marriage. They want a wedding. They don't want a marriage, or they want to get married. But there are women who want to get married, and there are women who want to marry you or marry a particular guy. There's women who get to a point where they're like, remember the girl who went into Target and she brought the priest and she brought her friends and she was all dressed up, and the guy's like there in his like Target uniform, and they bring the phone. Of course, it's a publicity stunt, right? She brings a phone in there, and if you don't marry me now, it's gonna, and here it is, y'all. You just get married to me right now. That's the girl that wants to be married, not to the guy. She just wants to be married. When women get to that epiphany phase, they're not looking at you as, I want to have his babies. It's, I want to have babies. That's a difference. There's a difference between, I need to have kids. My biological clock is ticking. I want to have babies. Or, I was going to stay single for the rest of my life and I never wanted to have kids, but then I met this guy who rocked my world and I want to have his babies. That's a difference. So is the girl a ride or die girl at 21 who wants to have your babies and wants to be married to you and really wants to get with you? That's one thing. That would be great. That would be ideal almost. It would certainly be a better prospect than getting with a girl who you think is more intelligent and you have more in common with her at 30 who just wants to get married because the clock is ticking. The party's almost over. She's in her epiphany phase. I need a man with benefits. I got to look for the future. I'm done with my hoe phase. Now I'm going to go and move on. Now I need a guy. Doesn't matter who it is, just a guy. I want to be married. My parents want grandchildren. Is that the girl you want to get with? No. I mean, ideally, you're probably going to say, well, I want a girl who's both. Okay, but let's just say for sake of argument, you have to choose between one or the other. Now, here's what I tell guys. When you're 36 years old, look for a girl who's right around 27. 28, 26, 27, 28. Even 28 might be a little late. But right then is when women start thinking about what's going to happen. Like they start realizing it's kind of like coming in from the edges, like the wall. And remember, it's here. The wall is coming, right? My biological clock is ticking. I'm 27. I should start thinking about long term. That's when you find a good hot girl there who's like a ride or die girl who wants to have your babies instead of just have babies. There you go. She's not following her life plan. She wants to be included in your life plan. She wants you as opposed to wanting it. That's the difference. And unless you can say that about the girl that you're with, you don't have frame. Unless the girl that you're with says, I want to have his babies. I want to have his last name. I want to be part of his family. I want to fuck him like crazy. I want to just tear his clothes off whenever he gets home from work, whatever. He's genetically and resource-wise, he's the guy for me, and I can't get nobody else, forsaking all others till death do us part. Or is she the girl who goes, well, you know, I wasn't getting any younger and I had to get married. Like, is that, you don't have frame if that's your wife and that's your girlfriend. Blue collar mindset says, when you realize you're coming into your peak and the girl is on the decline, could you explain why breaking up with them makes them act so different? Yeah, because they have a lot more to lose. Submissive, feminine, begging to be back. Why must you leave them for this? All right. So what will happen is this, a blue collar mindset is, when you get into those situations, it's usually not with a younger girl. It's usually with a woman who's like, say, 27, like the demographic I just told you about a second ago. It's usually women who invest early on in a guy. One of their greatest fears, again, like I said, the existential fear of women is to get with a guy who they thought was alpha and turned out to be beta. And again, I'm using those in abstract terms, but they're a guy who they believed would eventually potentially be high value and, you know, they can live a better life and their kids can live a better life. And so what they did is they said, you know what, I'm going to cash my chips in early and hopefully this guy will make partner in the law team. Hopefully this guy will be a surgeon. Hopefully this guy will be the high status, high value man that I think he could be when he gets to that peak, those peak years. And he doesn't get to that. And he disappoints, right? He doesn't live up. That's why I called it the curse of potential. He doesn't live up to the potential she thought he was. First of all, she thinks she deserves, right? She's entitled to. And then second of all, that she thinks he had, and then he doesn't. That's when there's a loss of investment, because that is like, that's like saying, I'm going to stick with this guy and invest all of my, because remember, women's sexual agency is a perishable commodity. And by the time that guy gets to be 36 years old, she has a substantial investment of her reproductive years and putting all of her eggs in one basket, and he's the basket. And if he doesn't turn out to be what she thought she was, or that guy says, you know what, I know we've been together, honey, for the last 6 years, 7 years, but I'm moving on and I think we're growing apart and I want to break up with you. That's a loss of investment in that woman. And that woman has only so much. So it becomes very valuable to her. They invest her personal and her reproductive potential that is invested in that one guy. Women's sexual agency, her reproductive years, her own sexual market value is only really, it's super valuable for a very brief time. And so when a woman says, oh, I'm going to invest it in this one guy, I'm hoping he'll be one of the winners that crosses the finish line, and we'll live happily ever after, because he's a really great guy. And then he turns out to not be a great guy, or he turns out to, bang his secretary or whatever. That's why women hate that. Like when they say, well, when guys get their law degree and they become really successful, then they just divorce their wives and leave their children and they go and fuck their secretaries and they want a trophy wife. That doesn't happen. I will tell you right now, that is, first of all, it's an apex fallacy. And then second of all, it's an old trope. And it's a trope because women really genuinely worry about that. The women who invest there, and why is it such a big deal? And why do women like rage against that? It's because they're investing their reproductive power or their reproductive years and their sexual agency in one guy. So when that guy gets to the point where he has made something of himself and has maximized his potential, or is on his way to maximizing his potential, and he says, sorry, I'm out, she's at a much lower degree or much lower level of her own sexual agency and a much lower level of power. That's why when when we look at divorce laws and alimony and child support, that's why women are vicious when it comes to that, because they see it as an investment loss. I can show, this was back, I think it was back in 2016. I read this story about how this woman had sued the guy that had basically left her, they were divorcing or whatever. She sued him for her reproductive potential. Like they're going to freeze eggs or something like that, or they were going to, he was supposed to give her babies and he never did. And so now she's older, and so she can't have those kids anymore, or she's less likely to have them. And the female attorney wanted to put it in the divorce settlement that the guy had to pay for the wasted potential of them not having kids. And that is, and women were just lining up going, yeah, you go, girl. Because that is, that to women, that makes perfect sense. To guys, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? To women, that makes a lot of sense. Because if a woman wants to have kids and she waits and she says, okay, well, he doesn't want to have kids. I don't want to have kids unless he wants to have kids. And then he makes partner in the law firm at 36 and he says, fuck it, I'm out. Or maybe something else happens and she divorces him, because 70% of divorces are initiated by women. If that's what happens and she loses that potential, she wants compensation for it now. In a gynosexual social order, that is exactly what's happening. You will see that with fertility. Like if a couple is trying to go through fertility therapy or whatever, and they get divorced in the process of it, and they have his sperm and her eggs, she's still entitled to put that in her and have those babies, and he's got to pay for it. I can show you an Arizona case where that happened, and where a female judge says, yeah, of course, that's wasted potential. You could have had babies and you didn't. So therefore, he's got to pay. I'd be very careful of that shit. Arnold says, I don't want to sound like some black pill loser, but I'm close to my 30s. I'm worried about not inspiring arousal in younger women anymore. Well, tell you what, Arnold, get your ass in the gym and maximize your potential. That's the best advice I have for you. Stop thinking in terms of defeatism, first of all, and make the most of yourself. People always say, well, Rollo doesn't talk about being an authentic man and being the best version. No, I talk about it all the time. I just talk about it in terms of, here's what you have to do. I don't know what maximizing your potential is, by the way. I know that when I talk about sexual market value peak, it's about being the guy at that point in time that has the most of what it takes to get to be the most attractive that you can be, to be the most arousing and the most attractive guy that you can be. It takes longer. Women know this. They know that it takes longer for men to mature into their maximum potential. That's why they go for older guys. You know why? Because they're a proven commodity. Those are the guys usually who've already crossed the finish line, who are already there. Or they realize, well, I'm 27 and he's 31, and so he's going to hit the finish line pretty soon, so I'm going to get with him. It's all about, what is it? Cost to benefit. What is it? Cost to investment, right? What's it going to cost her to invest in you? What's the risk potential of you? That's why we call it the sexual marketplace, by the way. I'm not saying it's not like a direct science, but we can look at things statistically. We can see how things work out. I'm not saying it works out in every single case. Of course not. But we can create a predictive framework around those statistics and around the predictability of men and women's nature. So if Arnold, I don't know what your personal potential is, but I will tell you this, is if you get to be 36, 37 years old and you're not in your peak potential, you're going to be kicking yourself. And you know why? Because I'm telling you this now. Because you're going to get to that point and you're going, damn, I wish I would have done what Rollo said. I wish I crossed the finish line. I'm supposed to be at this finish line. John from MLD, from Monolith Dating, John was telling me the other day, like he's 35 now, and he actually hit me up on a Signal chat, and he says, you know what, dude? He says, you're 100% right. I'm like, what? He's like, about being 35, 36 years old and hitting your maximum potential. He says, I've never made more money. I've never had more women after me. I've never been in a better position in my life to be sexually selective, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And I go, yeah, you hit your prime and you're hitting your stride right now. I'm not saying don't look for a long-term girlfriend or a wife or whatever it is that you want to do. I don't know whatever you want in Japan. I don't know how that works. Maybe you don't want it at all. But at least now you can make those decisions from an educated perspective and from a perspective where you have the selectivity and the options to do so. Wouldn't that be nice? And you would never have to go through a midlife crisis or a midlife epiphany. You would never have you would never be like, I'm going to buy me a sports car because I wanted what I didn't get. Well, women go, oh, you're just trying to relive your youth. No, you're trying to find some way to legitimize the stress that these guys feel because they made bad decisions early on and now they're screwed. So, Jocka Crazy says, tragic in the age of information. You have to explain what metadata is. Yeah. How generalities and statistical consistency work. Women's solipsism and age of feels is this why anecdotes are used. Yes. That and also Jocka Crazy is that women are solipsistic. So, and as a result of that, because we have feminized generation after generation of men, they default to that as well. Because if it worked for women, then it's going to work for them. That's the logic anyways. Guys will do this as well. And I see this is rife in the black pill and the doom pill is that they believe that if they're into hot girls, then women must only ever be into hot guys. And again, you're making guys, if this is you, if you think that looks are everything, here's the mistake that you're making. Men and women are different. End. The end. Goodbye. Period. Men and women are different. How do I know that? Well, let's look at the data once again. Guys want to get with a woman at 22, about 20 to 22 years old throughout their lives. Women, they want to get with a guy. They find a guy. And again, remember, that was looks. That wasn't like, oh, he's got to have a good bank account. No. That's what they find attractive at those particular ages. At least that's what they report anonymously. They're not amongst peers or anything like that. I don't even think that's it. I think it's I think that data was drawn from dating profiles, right? From OkCupid and Match.com and I forget the other one. Anyways, dating. Again, in this day and age, I think I'd tell you what's funny is like today, and I wrote about this in book 4, is that in this age of new enlightenment, we have, and I think we're going to see more of this in the future, we have data now that we've never collected before in the history of humankind because we just simply didn't have the means. I talked about this with Sterling as well. Go look at the data on the Pornhub blog. There's no porn on there, but there's lots and lots of numbers. And we'll show you the sexual habits of men and women and what they get off on and what they're into and what the common misspellings of the porn that they're searching for is state by state. That's a really good one. We have access to data that we've never had access before that the internet has granted us. And we find more and more about human nature every day. So yeah, when women are solipsistic and they like everything is like about them, well, of course it is because we live in a gynocentric social order that panders to that. It's all about fee. It's always, why do we live in an age of feels before reals? These kids at Antifa kids and these kids in college, they're just screwing things up. Yeah, because how they feel and their emotionalism supersedes everything else. It supersedes critical thought. And that is a very feminine way of thinking about things. And if we have a downfall of the decline and crash of Western culture is going to be at the feet of emotionalism. And eventually we'll get to critical thinking. We'll eventually get back to reason and rationality because that's the only thing that's going to build us back. That's what built the society in the first place. But now we're comfortable and now we went, it's all about my heart. It's all about love, right? Remember Jada Pinkett Smith? It's all about healing. Kai said, I've never met a woman with a notch count in the double digits that is not on antidepressants. Feminism has destroyed family values. It has, but I think that those antidepressants, and I've got the stats for that as well. I think a lot of that has to do with women's sort of existential crisis because I almost feel bad for women in certain respects because they're taught and sold this bill of goods that they're in their prime agency years, that they shouldn't be looking for the right guy. They shouldn't be like a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, right? And women are already predisposed to say, yeah, let your freak flag fly, man. At 23 years old, I'm at the top of my game. Why on earth would I start looking for a long-term relationship? Don't worry, there'll be some sucker when I'm 30. I just need to get married. It doesn't matter who it is. I'll eventually have babies, and my parents will have grandchildren. Like we feed our girls, our women this, and then when they get to the point where the consequences and the results and the liabilities of that kick in, then we've got more social conventions that says it's men's fault. Yeah, men didn't. They're kidults. They didn't prepare for you. They were supposed to be waiting for you at 30. They were supposed to be dumb, and you were supposed to have your cake and eat it too. And now they're not here. Whether that's because they made a choice not to be there, or whether that's because they're just, it was never an incentive for them to be there. They're just not there. That's why women complain about economically unattractive guys. I'm economically attractive. I went to college. How come I can't find a college guy? Because they're not dumb. Because they don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't know. There's a million different reasons. So yeah, wine, cats. Remember last Wednesday show? The black girl with the hoop earrings behind the screen. Supposed to be about COVID. It wasn't about COVID. Yeah, it was. Ostensibly, it was supposed to be about COVID, but it was really a statement on the way women are. Oh, let's see. Okay, DJ Troit. Spin Doctor, thanks for that $5, man. DJ Troit, DJ, whatever her name is. Hey, Rollo, this is my first time to one of your streams. Oh, welcome. I am 18. First time calling. I am 18 and I want to know your opinion on marriage. I don't know, I guess. I don't whether or not it's bad or it's good. Okay. Well, that sounds kind of like, I don't know. Oh, maybe you're genuine, but I'm going to just say, for sake of argument, this is a genuine question. I am against marriage in the way that we do it now. I think that marriage is a good idea. It has always been a good institution. It has been the keystone and the foundation of Western society right up until the sexual revolution. After the sexual revolution, after we introduced hormonal birth control to women and we've decided to change the game when it comes to who is going to control the future of human reproduction and handed it all over to women, that's when marriage became a bad deal. You'll notice that feminism has existed since 1849 in Seneca Falls, the suffragettes and all that good stuff has been around for quite some time, but it didn't really come into its own until we introduced hormonal birth control. And then of course the sexual revolution came after that. Until that invention existed, there was checks and balances, whether it was social stigmas or religious or whatever. And patriarchy was a good balanced system. By and large, was a good balanced system. Men had responsibilities and they had authority. It wasn't tyrannical. It was just the natural extension of biological evolved gender roles. And marriage was a good extension of that. It did the best good for the most amount of people for a long time. And then we introduced hormonal birth control and gave every aspect of the sexual game or sexual market, or any incentive, any leverage that men had in the sexual marketplace flew out the window as soon as the pill came to market. And that's why you have the decline in marriage, the increase in divorce, although divorce is now decreased as well because of the decrease in marriage. That's where you see gynocentric laws and child support and abortion and everything else comes right after, as I was saying, pointing out earlier in this podcast, right at about 1965-ish. That's when sexual revolution hit, and that's when everything went to shit. Culturally, gender-wise, that's where all this stuff originated and started. I don't know what the turnaround's going to be, but I'm absolutely, I wish you guys could have good marriages. I have a very good marriage. I've been married for almost 25 years, about 24 and a half years now. I wish, and I never use my marriage as like sort of proof of concept, right? I will never do that because my success does not imply your future success. I do think that being red pill aware is absolutely 100% life-threateningly vital to the health of any relationship, whether you're married or not, with heterosexual, even homosexual relationships in some cases. But you need to be red pill aware, and you need to understand We live in a new order of data, and we can see these things, and we can see it in black and white. You want to know why open hypergamy happened back in 2014? Because it's unignorable. In 2020, we know. We've got an idea of what it's all about. So women go, you got us, but it's your responsibility to take care of us. It's your responsibility to satisfy us. It's your responsibility to take care of our needs, right? That's what we got. Oh, what are you doing for her? Are her needs being met? Who fucking cares, right? What about my needs? Who cares about needs, right? It's not about needs. It's about coming together and being complements to one another. Men and women are better together than they are apart. But we still, to this day, everybody wants to go to their respective playgrounds and never the twain shall meet. Is marriage a bad idea today? Absolutely. In fact, in book 4, you will read just how bad. It's an unconscionable contract is what it is. But you will read just how bad it is in book 4. That said, I wish every man and woman alive could have a beautiful, wonderful, successful, happy, healthy marriage where they could be together forever and be, bang the hell out of you, have hot monkey sex in marriage and live and love for the rest of their lives. I wish that for you. But we fucked it up. We screwed up that institution. Whether it was through, the sexual revolution, gynocentrism, which I would definitely lay all of that at the feet of gynocentrism. But yeah, I wish it wasn't. I love the idea of marriage, but just not the way that we do it now. Jago M gave me 400 rubies. So is it correct that the chance of getting that hot wild monkey sex is going down with increasing single women's age, because they more and more look for attraction cues in middle-aged men? Well, it depends on where that woman is on this line, Jago. Depends on where that woman sits on this. So who are we talking about? Like the single women's age. Okay, well, if a woman gets to be like at her epiphany phase, remember, that's when she is looking here's what's funny. If you go and you look at this and you look at the party years here, that's when women are willing to have the hot sex and the foam cannon party with the guy that they meet on spring break. That's when the guys that she didn't make any rules for, that's when she's going to do that. What do we say all the time? What have I said from day one is that women make rules for betas and they break rules for alphas. So when a woman gets to that epiphany phase right there, around 28, that's when she is having to deal with more betas, because those are the guys who usually are better catches. Those are the guys who are actually doing something. And ideally, they want a guy who is still ignorant of the game. They want him to be hot. They want him to be motivated. They want him to be successful. They want him to be a good bet and have potential for the future to be the winner that crosses the finish line when he gets into his mid-30s. They want that guy at 28 years old, or they want a guy who looks like he might be that guy that's going to go across the finish line, and they want to get with that dude, right? Well, most of those guys are not the guys who are the hot guy in the foam cannon party from her hoe phase, from her party years. So they got to sort of make a compromise. They have to say, well, he's not as exciting as this guy. And you want to know why women make rules for betas. It's because they're having this inner conflict. Well, I'll have sex with him, but he's got to prove that he's worth having sex with. He's got to make me feel comfortable. He's got to wait, 6 dates before the first time I get on top of him, right? Whereas before, when she was 22, she was happy to break rules that she ostensibly had to get with the guys, because remember, hypergamy can't wait. Hypergamy cannot afford to miss a good opportunity. But when she gets to the epiphany phase and all the guys who represent being a good catch are kind of beta, and they kind of have to be, because they are focused more on having the qualities and having the beta buck side of the resource provisioning, like the 3 Ps, right? Protection, provisioning, and parental investment. Those are good qualities. I'm not saying they're bad in a guy. It's just that they're not usually part of the guy who is the hot guy in the foam cannon party that she wants to have hot monkey sex with. And so what happens is she has a conflict. And the conflict is, well, I'll have sex with him, but he's got to jump through these hoops. I got to make some rules for this guy. I don't want him to think I'm easy. And that sounds good, right? Because women aren't supposed to be easy. Well, now I'm not easy anymore. You were at 23, but now that you're 29, you're not easy anymore. I want to get right with God. I want to turn over a new leaf. So I'm going to do things different with this guy. That's not a fiendish plot. That's not like, now I'm going to get this guy. That's not that. It's this mentality. It's this natural progression. So when women get to be 29, 30, 31 years old, they're more likely to be with the guy that they're making rules for, because that guy has to prove that he has what it takes. And those guys who are still stupid and ignorant, they buy into this. They love it. Are you kidding? They're finally getting the interest of the girls that they wanted to get with, but now they never had anything to do with them. I remember I've still to this day, I get emails from guys who are like, Rollo, I'm 30 years old, and all these girls who wouldn't give me the time of day when I was 20 are now calling me up, or they're looking me up on Facebook, or they're sliding into my DMs. Why? Well, I guess I finally got what it takes. No, you're dumb and you have benefits, and that's why they're coming in. They think you're great now. Oh, you were here all along. Have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen? God, have you ever seen that meme that says like what you'll see? Like guys will buy pictures and they'll give it to their wives, right? And the pictures is like one of these motivational pictures, and it's like a couple and they're all walking on a beach, and the saying is, "I wish I would have found you sooner, so I could have loved you longer." That is the most beta blue pill bullshit I have ever. Like, you want to talk, like I talk shit about like those power ballads from the 80s. That is worse than any power ballad from the 80s. Because you know what, guys? If you had found her earlier in her hoe phase, she wouldn't have nothing to do with you. In fact, she would be having hot monkey sex with the guy in the foam cannon party, and you'd be like, oh, I can't believe she's here. I thought we were going to be in love because we're destined. She's my soulmate. No, she's just having those years that she was so crazy when she was in college. She's with those guys that you think ruined her. For you, back, she's got issues. She was damaged. You know, I'm helping her work through those things because I'm a really swell guy, and we're gonna go to therapy and go to Bible study, and she'll get over it. And eventually, she'll want to have hot monkey sex with me, like she did with him. No, she won't, because you're beta, and you have to jump through hoops. The very fact that she's making you rules means she thinks you're beta. God damn, man. Okay. Bulldog, there you are. Bulldog, John Sonmez says this, if you can be Giga Chad at 38 and make partner in a law firm, women will come running to you because you have it all. 100% correct. This is what all guys should be aiming for. That doesn't mean you have to be like the apex dude. I realize I'm exaggerating, but you have to be aiming for that. You have to be headed in that direction. Throw the ball at that target. I don't know how else to say this, because there's so many guys who think that, like, if I say spin more plates, guys say, well, he's just talking about having sex with anything on two legs. No, you need to have experience with women. And you need to, when you get to 30, you need to realize that or you get to 33, 36, wherever you are, you need to realize that that's going to be your peak potential years. That's going to be when women expect you to have the most of what makes you sexually attractive, sexually or long-term. Like, you got to be the good catch and the good fuck. They think that that's, once you get to those, like, it takes longer for you to get those things. That could be 33, that could be 36, could be 37, like Aristotle said. That's the expectation. You're older. You're the older guy. It's a muse mastery. You're the older guy, and women expect you to have made the most of your potential. And how is that reflected? Well, you've got a muse mastery. You have mastery over your potential. You reach your fullest potential. You have mastery over your world. You have frame, and you have a world into which she wants to join. She wants to be. You're a winner. You cross the finish line, and you're the winner, and she wants to bang the winner. She doesn't care what it took to get that. No. Yeah, maybe you say, oh, you went to college. Great. There's only because, and guys are thinking, well, that's horrible. That's superficial. Women only want to get with, they don't care about your struggle. Why don't they appreciate that? Because they can't. They can't possibly appreciate that struggle, because their sexual market value is perishable. They can't waste time with that. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they have the insight. Maybe at some point they do develop that. But it ain't going to be before you meet them. It ain't going to be before you jump into, before she's breaking rules to get into bed with you. It's going to be, it might be after. She might, afterwards, and after you're married or you have a kid, or maybe after like you're in a relationship with her, then maybe she cares a little bit about the struggle that you went through to get to that point of mastery. But before that, all that matters is that you have it, because hypergamy can't afford to miss a perfect opportunity. And if you're that perfect opportunity, that's her first priority, is not thinking about, wow, he really had to really struggle to get to that point. You're the winner. You're the one who crossed the finish line and she wants to fuck you. Amar Kermani says, attesting, I'm 38 and living a separate due to the attention I am getting. Although not super good in lays, but can get dates with zero effort. Yep. You will be in a better position. You should be in a better position. Ken Abbott, I'm 55, divorced, have my act together successfully, 6'5", 6'5", fucking A. Reasonably good looking. What's my SMV by your graph? I should be targeting 35-year-old girls. Yeah, okay, sure. Maybe here's, I think one thing that guys who are like, I'm 52, right? I think if for God forbid, let's just say I'm single, right? I would not be targeting women who are 35. I would be looking at women who are in the epiphany phase, and not for a long-term relationship, but because those are the easiest women to bang. Like if all I wanted to do was get laid, look for women that are in the epiphany phase, because they're so much easier to, like, I mean, this is me being fiendishly evil here. Okay. Like if you want to maximize your game as an older guy, look for women in the epiphany phase and know what to say and know how to leverage that. And if you really want to get, like, you want the hottest, most like performance wise, the hottest monkey sex you can get with a woman who is necessitous and thinks that you have what she needs. That's the key to pretty much every, transaction in the world. But I'm not talking about transactional sex. I'm talking about validational sex, because women are motivated by certain things. They're motivated by the prospect that you might in some way provide them with what they need. And at no other time in a woman's life is she more necessitous than 29 to 31 years old. That's where you should be targeting, my friend. If that's what you want to do. If you want to have a relationship, if you want to, I'm 55, I'm not interested, I want to get out of the game. Okay, well then look for a woman who's like 40 years old and hopefully doesn't have any kids, which is like never going to happen. But you're going to have to make compromises when you're like 50, 55 years old and you get back into the game. I don't know what your sexual market value is. You tell me, man. You tell me. You tell me what, according to that, you tell me. I don't know you. I don't know what you look like. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your situation is. That's like impossible for me. And anybody who would tell you, oh, you're 6'5", so therefore you've got to be, you're an 8 for sure. Bullshit. There's plenty of lanky, stupid, broke ass 6'5" guys. 55 years old. How much do you weigh? Wattasian? I don't know what that means. Based on your findings, is 36 the year a man should be able to attract his best potential for the mother of his children? Best genes for the kids. Let's just say that you, at 36, 37, 38, that is the point where you should be hitting your stride. You will have more sexual selection at that point than at any other time in your life, whether you are, you should anyways. That's what women are thinking, that should be your peak potential years. That's the point where you should be crossing the finish line. Should you be looking for, is to attract a mother for his children? Yeah, you could, but is that what you want to do? I would say yes, but that's only if you've maximized that potential. That's why I keep saying it's the curse of potential. There's nothing worse for a man than wasted potential. Spin Doctor says, great show, especially this one. You are welcome. 28 super chats so far. Wow. Samurai Flack. Samurai Flack. Samurai Jack is a really good show, by the way. I'm just saying. Whenever I think about doing the work or self-improvement, I can't help but think of it as doing something for women's approval to get their validation. How do I break out of this thinking? You stop thinking that. Because here's what you do, Samurai Flack. You read. I have an essay called "The Crisis of Motive." Go look that up on my blog. It's called. You can look it in the. Just search it on the Rational Male. Crisis of motive is this: why do you do what you do? I can make a case for why everything you do is to get laid. So you're just a pussy hound. Everything you went and took a piss this morning. That's because you wanted to get laid. Real men don't take a piss. Real men don't drink coffee in the morning. You're just doing that because you want to look tough and you want girls to like you because you think that coffee makes you look tough. I can make anything up. Anything. Why do you go to the gym? Well, I go to the gym because I want to be strong and I want to lift heavy objects and I do it for me. Yeah, but you got into it because you want to get laid. And there's nothing wrong with that. Here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's a side benefit of the things you do, so be it. I'm a surgeon. I really wanted to help people and solve problems and fix people's guts or whatever. I'm a heart surgeon and fix their hearts. Great. Meanwhile, you make $1 million a year and women want to fuck you. Oh, that's a side benefit. Is it? Or is that the real reason? Doesn't matter because I can make it. It's all subjective. I can make up anything I want. So stop worrying about it. Do what you're going to do. Guys, I said this, like I got into playing music. You see the guitars back here. I got into playing music in my teens and I jumped like head first into the LA metal scene in the late 80s and early 90s. I didn't do it because the pay was so good. I did it because I wanted to get laid. Simple as that. I had a lifestyle and I had a look and I learned so much about the music industry. I learned so much about being a musician. I learned about recording. I learned about promotion. I think about all the things that I got an education of because I had a passion for that. But the reason why I got the passion was because I go, man, the chicks that are after these guys on stage, they look pretty good. And I want to get some of that. That motivated me. Absolutely. Here it is. Yep. I did. I got into it because of pussy. But you know what? As a result of that, I had so many experiences that led to other things that had nothing to do with pussy. But that got me into it. Do I regret it? Oh, you're a pussy hound. Yeah. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. And it led to other things that were great and still today are great as a result of that. And I never would have had those experiences, never would have had that education, never would have got into the things that I got into as a result of that if I had not done that. So don't think that being motivated by sex is a bad thing, especially if it's guys will want to say that, you're just all about pussy. Well, you know what that is? That's intrasexual competition amongst guys. And they're actually acting like bitches too, because they can't compete with that. Then they go, oh, you're in for the wrong reason. So you're basically gaslighting that guy. So he won't outcompete you in the sexual marketplace. That's pretty much what it's about. That's the black pill, by the way, in a nutshell. Is gaslight these idiots in as emotional way as possible, because if they aren't winning, then I'm not, or if I'm not winning, then they're not winning too. Oh, anything you do is pussy begging. Fuck that. Whatever. You know. Jason the Dream says, thank you for bringing clarity inside this topic. You are welcome. I felt it needed it. Tobias Varela again says, Rollo, you didn't get to me. I did get to you. It was about the Joseph Carpenter from the Bible. Okay, well, Tobias, here's the thing. I think this is what you meant. I hope this is what you meant. When I was talking, when I was doing the religion show, I don't think I got to this, but I think one of the things that a lot of women use right now, particularly when it comes to like single mommies and things like that, is they want to use the Bible as sort of a legitimizing being a single mother, because Joseph from the Bible, he married a single mother, right? Because Jesus was the Son of God, and because of that, he stuck around and he was the first stepdad. That is some major gaslighting bullshit. You're like, how? Like, what choice did he have? Really? I mean, let's be honest, okay? Like, if that's your belief, and I'm not shitting on anybody's belief, if that's your belief, then, I mean, let's look at it from a pragmatic perspective. I hope that's what you mean. I don't know if that's what you mean. Maybe it is. How do you out alpha God? Oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry. Is Joseph the Carpenter the ultimate simp? No. because you can't. How can you say that? How can you say, like, if God is your last final authority, any idea of simping, any idea of being the biblical single dad or the biblical stepdad, all of that flies out the window. It's the creator of the universe. What choice do you really have in that? What choice? Well, Joseph should have just left her and took off and let her have baby Jesus. Well, I'll tell you this, you never hear anything. Well, what happened to Joseph? We hear lots about Mary. We don't know anything about the fate of Joseph. We don't know how long he stuck around. We don't know if he died. We don't know what happened to Joseph in the Bible. There's no record of, beyond the Christmas story, what happened to him. Like, where did he go? Did he write a book? Did he do something? Is he on OnlyFans? We don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he said, fuck it, I'm out. You screw this. Yeah, you're with God. Oh, well, we don't know. I mean, if that's we're going to go by the legend, if you're going to go by the scriptural stuff, so don't call him. Like, the reason why that's a popular meme or popular myth right now is because women want some sort of like biblical justification for being a single mother, and they want guys to just sort of step in and take over because it's part of this right here. When women are single mothers and they get to the epiphany phase or they are more necessitous than any other time. That guy who hit me up and said, oh yeah, the girl that I'm with, I'm 29 and she's 35 and she's a single mother. That dude who was asking me that, she is deep in the, what I call the security anxiety phase. She is like, she realizes the time is running out. You want to know when women really, like especially married women, really lose their shit? It's right about 38 to 39. Because that is like, if they haven't really acknowledged the wall, that's when they acknowledge the wall. That's when the party's over. And it's like, Lord, please kill my man. Just kill him. Kill him while I'm still hot enough to get a better man. And that's when the shit gets real. So yeah. Okay. So how do you out alpha God? Okay. You know what you need to do, Tobias, is you need to read the book 4. Cause I talk about that. What you're talking about right here is, what I call the orthodox paradox. I can't argue against that, because if that's your last authority and you go, okay, well, God said this, so I'm going to get married anyways. Bye. I don't care what the risks are. My holy book says that this is what I'm supposed to do. Nothing I can do about it. I can educate you. I can tell you what to watch out for, but I'm not going to influence your decision. I'm not going to influence anybody because you can't argue against God. You can't argue against God. You can't out alpha God. I understand you're a Christian, whatever, but what am I going to tell you, man? Well, Rollo says you shouldn't get married. The way we do it now, you shouldn't. I wish you could. What about premarital sex? Well, you're going to be a virgin for a very long time. I think that premarital sex is like the prohibitions against premarital sex. I understand why they exist. I understand the functional practicality, the metaphysical truth of it. I get it. I understand why it makes sense. I just think it's untenable. It's untenable now. It's untenable for human nature, period. Like in today's sexual marketplace, if you're not, like, what did I just show you? I just showed you that the average age of first marriage in the sexual marketplace today in the United States for men is 29.8 years old. So almost 30 years old. So you're going to wait till you're 30 years old before you get your first kiss, before you fuck. That's going to be that's what we should prescribe for guys. Like, men live to be maybe, I don't know, what's the average age for men? Let's just say 80 years old. So the first third of your life, or not even that, like maybe the first, I'm not gonna say half because it's not half, but like, let's just say the first third of your life, you're going to be a virgin. No, you're not. Oh, why is it that Christian men are all like, why is it that 68% of Christian men are addicted to porn? That's a tough one. Let me think about that. Jake, can you clarify the difference between attractive versus beta traits? Should men with arousing traits still strive for attractive traits as added value? Yes. And I think, Jake, here's the thing is maximize it according to the timeline. It's hard for me to say, well, yeah, you should. Do you want to be the full package? Absolutely. Especially when you get to that point, when you get to into your mid 30s or heading into your mid 30s, you want to have the most, well, I mean, if you want to be in a position of your best selectivity and you want to be hitting your stride as far as your potential is concerned, then yeah, you should. I don't think that there's anything wrong with like developing, the 3 Ps, right? Protection, provisioning, and parental investment. We need those things. That's what makes for a good father. That's what, like later on, when you're in your 20s and stuff like that, and you're, hot and horny. Well, they're, stay in shape definitely and carry that over into your later years, into your peak potential years. But, yeah, you should. I think so. Added value. That's one of the things that I think women really like lose the narrative on, because they only see sexuality as their peak potential. That is their peak potential. At 23, sexuality, like the highest, like a porn star, a stripper, whatever, at 23 years old, that is her peak potential. That she will not be any more desirable, any more attractive, any more valuable to, like we said, men from all different ages are looking for that one thing. If she maximizes that, she's the holy grail, man. That's what guys want to get with. And I think that the problem is a lot of women see that and they see that and they become like that. And we've never made it easier, by the way, today, because we've commercialized it, we've commodified it. So that woman who's 23 years old on OnlyFans and showing off her ass, she doesn't even have to be like super hot. She can just seem like she's attainable and hot, and she's going to make money hand over fist. And women go, well, I guess I'm brilliant. I guess I'm where I need to be. So, but the problem is that there's no value added. So women don't see any value because we've conditioned women to believe that they are entitled to the value that men have that will add to them. So it doesn't matter. Well, I want to get with a guy who's like, they'll make up shit as they go along, but they'll rationalize stuff. Well, I've learned a lot. That especially right here, right at the Epiphany phase, that's when women go, I've finally ended my journey of self-discovery. No, you finally exited out of your sexually competitive years. And now you have no other choice but to be insightful, to like have some sort of womanly wives' tale wisdom about things. And women generally are just repeating the same kind of crap that's been repeated for a long time. Justin Jones says, can you demonstrate female arousal compares with men's numerically otherwise? Cat versus lion? I don't understand what that question means. Can you demonstrate female arousal compares with men's numerically or otherwise? I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Dragoon says, do you provide private consultation? I will be as soon as I'm done dealing with a death in the family and book 4 being finally delivered. So once I do that, I will be getting back into doing personal counseling. I'm still going. I know I said that I was going to do this on Patreon, but I have been really bogged down with the book. So I will be doing like a seasonal, like sort of, I don't want to call it a Zoom class because nobody is a Zoom class, but it'll be like sort of consultation. I wanted to see if I can get as many guys as I can into that because a lot of guys have the same problems. I think it would be beneficial if I was sort of there and people could sort of listen to what other guys, problems are. Maybe it relates to them. So yes, I will be. Blue collar mindset. So by default, when you leave a woman, no matter if she slipped into beta ways and she was being disrespectful, you take control of frame and make her see you as alpha, which is why they get turned on. Yeah, but here's the thing is when you exercise, it's like when I talk about like ultimatums are what I consider the ultimate expression of powerlessness. If you have to tell her something, it's better to demonstrate than it is to explicate. If you have to tell a woman something, or anybody for that matter, if you tell them what you're going to do, or you're going to threaten them, or you're going to say, here's your ultimatum, do this or else. What that says to me is like, you're so out of control here that you have to like sort of like take away everything. Here's the punishment that's going to happen if you don't do it. It's much better to have a woman have genuine desire for you and to do what you want to do and to respect you by default and like organically, rather than you going and making her obligated to fall into your frame. to make you. A woman does not want to feel that she is obligated to think of you as alpha. That alpha has to be organic. It has to be genuine. When I talk about genuine desire, that's what I mean. It has to flow from a place of like authenticity on her part, but it has to flow from a place where she wants to be with you instead of has to be with you. I don't know if I make myself clear on that, but that's what I'm talking about. If you slip into beta ways and she was being disrespectful, you take control of frame. Yes, the problem is that when you do that, you have to do that slowly and firmly, and you have to, like I said, demonstrate, do not explicate. Because when guys backslide into beta kind of blue pill ways after they have when a woman figures out that you're really not alpha and you're actually more beta than you are alpha, and you go back to being that way, that triggers that existential fear. Oh my God, he's actually beta. And I thought he was alpha all this time. And then you go, no, wait. No, I'm really alpha. Let me convince you. That right there, when you're doing that makes them even more scared. That makes them even shit their pants more. Because that's pandering. That's contrived. No, wait. I'm really alpha. Let me go beat something up for you. Now you have to be, now not only did she make the mistake, the original mistake, now you're saying you have to be obligated to think of me as alpha. Be very, very careful with that. Like I said, Iron Rule of Tomassi number 7, it's better to look for new prospective women than it is to go back to an old relationship. If you break up with somebody, that's really why most women don't want to get back with you. When a woman gets back with a guy, it's usually because she doesn't have the options to go with anything better, or she doesn't have anything better. And so she goes, well, okay, well, I still love him. If she found like hot Giga Chad in between you breaking up and you trying to get back together with her, the conversation never happens. And so what that does is when you get back together with her, now not only do you have the problem of having broken up with her, or maybe you went from alpha to being beta and now you're trying to come back as being a hard ass, you seem like you're pandering. You seem like you are a crying little baby child, right? You're supposed to respect me. Okay. But you don't want a woman to do that. You want to be natural, have it a demonstrated kind of alpha thing. So Drape Toman says, who would she want? The guy who's going to be Dr. Smith, or Bill, whose commercial plumbing business pulls down $3,000 a year? Well, it depends. Does she want to get railed by Dr. Smith? I don't know who you're talking about. It's not all about the money. Always. It's not always about the money. Because if it was, then, even if it was always about money, then like the guys who are the sugar daddies, there wouldn't be so many sugar daddies. Put it that way. Sylvester Stallone looks great at age 70. Goddamn Skippy. Simple Fly says, I love your work and continue to recommend it because it needs to be heard. Thanks. Please talk about not looking to the other for measure. Okay. I will. Irish Alpha says, is Tommy Lahren the type thinking that female success in careers boosts SMV? Yes. Go look at that video. Only women seek status and money in male partners. Only women seek. Yeah. Yes. And we've already proved that empirically in this show. Men want younger, hotter, tighter. It doesn't matter if she's a sandwich artist at Subway. It doesn't matter if she's a barista. It doesn't matter if she is Sheryl Sandberg and the CEO of Facebook. It makes no difference. Like it's nice. It's nice to have a rich, it's icing on the cake. Don't get me wrong, but that's not what guys are looking for. A hot stripper is an alpha female. Go look up Renee Summerfield. That's an alpha female. At least in the Tomassi book. That's a 9.5 in the Tomassi scale. Renee Summerfield. Go look her up. Sorry. But that is evolutionarily speaking, Renee Summerfield is an alpha female. From a gynocentric perspective, in a male context, people want to say that Sheryl Sandberg's an alpha female. Actually, no. Nobody wants to bang Sheryl Sandberg. They want to bang Renee Summerfield, trust me. Let's see. Daniel O says, thanks for the wisdom roll. I'm 42 and having a hard time getting back in the game financially and dating wise. What would you suggest in this case? Take it easy. Ease your way back in. I tell you that because guys who get divorced, I don't know if you're divorced or you're just single or you're divorced. 42 having a hard time getting back into the game. Okay, so that's probably why. And dating wise, you are in the prime demographic for first divorce. Another stat that I picked up on. Men between the ages of about 44 and I think 52 or 50, I forget what the demographic, what the age is, but there's an age range for first divorce for men. You're in it. And that's also coincides with the highest demographic of men killing themselves. Wow. I wonder if there's a correlation between those two. Forgot it. Let's go back to OnlyFans. Take it easy. Look up Mike Peterson. Hit me up, Daniel, in email, and I will give you his name. He's the guy who specializes in like men getting, like older guys getting back into the dating market. Throwaway 8080 says, I keep finding myself going back to my BP way, blue pill ways. Any advice on how to maintain a red pill mindset? Yes. I don't know. You know what? To maintain a red pill mindset means that you've got to be red pill aware. It means you have to start internalizing it. Well, I'm not saying, well, read the Rational Male 4 times and you'll start to. You have to start to change your way of seeing the world around you. You have to see the code in the matrix. And that's really, I think, the best way to sort of maintain that is to say, look for those opportunities. Look for those things in your personal relationships. Look for those things on TV. Look for those things in the news. Look for those things in your social situations. And then, you have to be a little bit, at least, self-analytical. Throwaway 80. I got you. Facundo says, started discussing topics on your book through a WhatsApp broadcast list once. A couple of guys were triggered on a commentary I made on the soulmate myth. Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to rub people the wrong way too. Because people get guys in particular, get very invested in the soulmate myth because that's how they're going to solve their reproductive problem. What is the Fruit Loop pill? I don't know. Sounds like one of those made up pills that all these guys throw out there. And I wish we could get past this stupid bullshit of pills. Thank you for Scream Feast. I'm naming my next band, Scream Feast. Thank you for your life-saving message. I impart your wisdom to my 2 sons, aged 18 and 16. Good. Perfect time to do it too. Give them, if they haven't read the first book, fine. Let them read it, but also make sure you give your 18-year-old the book 2, which you can find right there. It's this actually the very first link. Go buy preventive medicine because it's everything I've talked about today is in preventive medicine. Ryan Moto says, started to use the red pill outlook in my social circle and getting results from the women in my social circle. The guys, however, are labeling me a player. Of course they will. That's them gaslighting you. That's them trying to disqualify you from intra-sexual competition because they know that what you're saying is giving away the game. Okay. Behind my back to other women. How can I handle this? Confront them? No. Just keep doing what you're doing because what you are doing, you don't owe anybody an explanation. And certainly you don't have to prove you're right. I think a lot of guys want to take the red pill and go, I'm going to show you why I'm right. And here's why I'm right. Here's why I'm going to, here's how I'm going to back it all. Like I do that all the time, right? That's what this show's for. But you don't have to do that. And I don't have to do that. I could just basically end this stream right now and never say a damn thing and just write a few books. I don't have to do that. I do this because, I want guys to be aware. But you don't owe anybody an explanation. If what you think is right and what you think is working for you and it does work for you and you see the proof in the pudding, so to speak, like I said, that's like I keep telling guys is like, you don't want to be a red pill evangelist because it'll never work for you, first of all. And you have to treat things like triage. So you can save the ones you can and you read Last Rites to the Dying. And a lot of guys want to throw rocks at you because they see it working for you. That's why they call you a player. That's why they say, that guy's a player. Yeah, he'll never. That's when guys call you a player. those guys are using a female shaming tactic. They're using a female way of trying to, anyways, use a female way of disqualifying you from their sexual marketplace. Like, they're trying to disqualify you by saying that guy's not a good bet for PPP, right? Protection, provisioning, and parental investment, because he's a player and he won't invest in you. That's exactly what women do when they call a woman a slut. They're basically calling you a slut is what they're calling you. And why do women call other women a slut? Well, because they want other guys to think that she's not a good bet for his paternity. That's why. That's intrasexual combat. And when guys call you a player, they're taking that page right out of the female playbook, because they've been feminized like anybody else. Facundo, off topic. Regarding conflict resolution, do you think nonviolent communication is a good read, or is it about female communication? Nonviolent? What? So I'm going to talk to you and not punch you in the face. That's nonviolent. Everything I've done, I have been nonviolent this entire live stream for goddamn almost 3.5 hours. You mean non-hostile, non-aggressive? What? Is that what you mean? Nonviolent? Yeah. Yes, I'm 100% for nonviolent communication. Please don't beat each other up while you're talking. But anyways, I think what you mean is like non-hostile, or like being, there's put this way, agreeableness is a primarily female trait. I'm not saying it's not something that guys don't do too. They do. Agreeableness is associated with a lack of sex partners too. I can show you the studies for that. Rebel with a General says, and here we go. All right. Stars and bars. A Rebel with a General says, got any advice for an Aspie? Well, an Aspie from the South? Do I have any advice for an Aspie? Asperger's syndrome? Yes. Be self-aware. Understand that you are that. If you are in fact that way. First of all, do you really have Asperger's syndrome, or are you really just socially unintelligent? I think I joke, everybody uses Spurg, right, as a derogatory, like an insult right now. And I think when we talk about Asperger's syndrome or autism, oh, you're autistic, oh, you're a retard. I think that it's almost like prescribing BPD for girls. Oh, she's just nuts. She's a psychotic bitch, so she's got BPD. No, she's just a psychotic bitch. She might have BPD, maybe, but most likely she's just full of herself and she's a psychotic bitch. Asperger's syndrome, autism. How about this? How about you never really learned social graces. You never learned how to you never learned to communicate because you're too busy behind a screen somewhere, and that's what socialized you. Ask yourself, like, are you prescribed with Asperger's syndrome? If you really are, then you're beyond my help to really help you out here. How does an Aspie get laid? Well, you learn how to deal with your situation, your condition first, and then we can talk. You have to learn social intelligence first, and that's really hard to do. Maybe you can't. Blue collar mindset. Yeah, gotcha. I would never get back with the girl I was speaking about. Just amazes me the change in attitude in her, literally begging me and wanting to sleep with me after I broke up with her. Of course she does, because you're the best option she has. There you go. All right, I'm done. This has been way too long. All right, guys, hopefully that has educated you. That's the end of today's lesson. If you like this, please consider support. All the support links are in the description. Go buy book 2. If you want more information on the stuff that I've just talked about today, there's plenty of data in that, but it's like, you don't need data. You need a plan. You need to see what to expect. And that's why I wrote book 2. And I like that book. I think it's sort of, like I said, it's the unsung hero of the Rational Male series. Go check that out, man. Hopefully this has cleared the air a little bit about sexual market value and what I meant by all this. When you see somebody throw this graph up, now you know how old this is, and now you know the story behind it. There are at least 4 different essays I've written about sexual market value and the validity it has even today. Again, are there contextual differences in 2020? Yeah, sure. But the basis is the same. The basics are the same. You will see this form. You will see those figures sort of played out in a lot of different data. So you just got to be sensitive enough to see where those things are. Women, men, right? You have to look at the similarities in the patterns, their pattern recognition, right? And last but not least, I'm going to leave you with this. Never forget that women should marry when they are about 18 years of age, and men at 7 and 30. At 7 and 30, and they are in the prime of their life, and the decline in power of both will coincide. Yes. So remember that too, because if a woman is at her peak and you are at your peak, ideally, really, when you're at, say you're 35 and you happen to get with a girl who's 23 or 24, you'll both be on your decline at the same time, right? I mean, figuratively speaking, that's what Aristotle thought. Because when women decline, I think one of the things that women don't really understand is that when they're on their decline, they want a guy who is there to sort of be with them. That's why they call it wife goggles, right? I want a guy who's going to love me no matter what. Well, how about you learn some insight and some social graces, and you keep yourself in shape, and you have genuine desire, and you're a good mother, and there's lots of other qualities women can have and value added that they just simply think that they're owed or that they can take from the man. He's got value, so I'll just add his value to mine. So keep that in mind. And remember that I've experienced this myself, right? I mean, it's like my wife when I met her, she's fantastic. She's fucking like 8.5, 9 when I met her. I would say she's still a hard 7 today, even, right? You say, oh, you got wife goggles. Yeah, I do. And that's what you want, ladies. You want a guy who's still like, you still stay in good shape. You don't turn into a beach ball. Don't turn into a fat ass. And still fuck him like crazy. Fuck him like you did when you were 25, right? Still have that genuine desire. But you want to know why women want to make sure that you're a good bet for their future, is because they know that they're going to spend most of their lives in a state that is not their peak. Remember, women peak out, or they top out at about 22, 23. That's a lot if women live to be 80s, maybe even 90s, women outlive men. That means that they're going to spend the vast majority of their lives on that downswing, on that down end of their sexual market value. And as guys, we have to remember that. That's a powerful lesson for men to remember, is that women will spend most of their lives not in their peak years. Remember, men gradual, women, and then that's it. So that's why it's called Forever 21 and not Forever 41, because they're always looking back at those peak years. Man, I was so crazy in college. And that's when they're 30, when they're 40, when they're 50, when they're 60, when they're 70, they're going to be looking back at those days going, man, I was so crazy in college. So they're going to live most of their life in a state that is not in that peak. For men, at least, if you maximize your potential, you will live in a state that is a higher potential than most women if you keep yourself together and you maximize it and you become the best version of yourself. And that is it for today. Yes, I know. No, because remember, the average lifespan was low in the ancient times because of high child mortality. People just didn't die at 40. Yeah, I know. I get that. I understand. I also understand that modern medicine has prolonged our lives, although we still kill ourselves. Crazy. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I will see you guys on Wednesday.